seeded that race. In fact, she's hoping for a runoff. In some places, I'm disappointed about what happened in Florida. My heart is heavy for the things that have been taking place and the ways in which we didn't win. But last night brought something else. Last night, in so many ways, we did. We won a lot last night. And so today I want to break down in the first hour exactly what did we win. Should we, as Black folk, be celebrating in this moment? Should we be excited about what these new folks going into the Congress, what it will portend for what's going to happen to us personally? How excited should we be? And for the first time, I think in a very long time, that you have a record number of people from one party sweeping into the House. More than 90 women were elected last night, and some votes are still being tallied. So we're going to break down the election results in the first hour. E.R. Shipp is going to join me. I'll have my intern, Deja. She went to the event last night, Governor Hogan's event, and so she's going to talk a little bit about that. And then the second hour, you asked for the Parenting Roundtable, and it is back. Dr. Regina Lewis is going to join me. Dr. Guy Sims is going to join me. And we're going to talk about parenting in the age of Trump. So Trump is still in office, even though there's been some changes on the ground. So what does it mean, and what should we be telling our children about this moment? We'll talk about that in the second hour. As we go into the conversation today, I just want to start with some breaking news. Donald Trump is once again cleaning house. He has asked for a letter of resignation from Jeff Sessions, and Jeff Sessions is out. In fact, the president sent a tweet out. I want to read it because here's a man who fires people by tweet, who informs you that people have been fired by tweet. But he says, breaking news. Donald Trump just tweeted out that Jeff Sessions is gone. Here's what he put out. We are pleased to announce that Matthew G. Whitaker, Chief of Staff to Attorney General Jeff Sessions at the Department of Justice, will become our new acting Attorney General of the United States. He will serve our country well. We thank Attorney General Jeff Sessions for his service, and we wish him well. A permanent replacement will be nominated at a later date. Jeff Sessions is out, but we knew that Trump was going to clean house. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the phones. 410-319-8888. Let's talk about the election. What do you think about what happened? Were you excited? Did you feel like you won something in that moment? Did you feel the effects of the rainbow wave, which is what Van Jones is calling it? Not a blue wave, not a red tsunami, but a rainbow wave in terms of the number of people who got swept into office. 410-319-8888. I want to put some of our successes up because I believe that in this moment, we have to celebrate our successes. We have to recognize the reality of our struggles, and we have to realize, and I'm talking about anybody who is swimming in the blue wave at this moment, anybody who's over in the independent wave at this moment, we're going to have to realize that we are in a fight until the end. So here's a couple of things that I put out on my Facebook page. One, we actually won the most votes throughout the whole country. Folks got out and voted blue yesterday. They pushed through. They got out and they voted blue before we actually had the election day. Those who were able to vote early. Two, in all the House races combined, we got 3 million more blue votes. In this election, now that the election's over, I can be very clear that as an independent, I was very, very blue yesterday. Very blue. Third, in all the Senate races combined, we got 10 million more votes. A fourth thing that I think we have to recognize and celebrate, we pushed through all of their attempts to shut us down, to shut us out. And we sent a message that the majority of Americans reject Donald Trump and all that he stands for and all that he believes in. We are rejecting his hateful rhetoric. And people stood in line to do that, sometimes for 4 and 5 hours. And then the fifth thing I think is very important, and this is what we want to talk about. Folks, yesterday showed me that Black and brown women, we proved once again that we are the face of change. Take a listen to these results. In the race by gender, dealing with Beto O'Rourke and Ted Cruz, white men voted for Cruz 71%. White women voted for Cruz 59%. Black men voted for O'Rourke 94%. Latina men voted for O'Rourke 60%. Latina women voted for O'Rourke 66%. But hear this piece. Black women voted for O'Rourke 95%. What is interesting to me is that Black and brown women are showing that we are the face of change in this country. And that white women, in this instance, similar to what happened when the votes were counted with Donald Trump, prove that once they get into that booth, that they vote against change. And in so many ways, they're voting against us. And I'm just pulling out this particular race as an example, with 59% of white women voting for Cruz and, in a sense, against O'Rourke. I want to talk about that today. 410-319-8888. Girls rule the world. We proved it yesterday. Let's talk about the election results. Were you biting your nails? Was your stomach turning over? Was it a hard and heavy night for you? Were you able to sleep at all? Folks, I felt like I was waiting for the results of some type of, biopsy or like cancer results or something, because I was on edge, because I wanted to send a message to Donald Trump that we reject what you stand for. Now, he is too dense to have gotten the message, but the message has been sent. We have Paul on the phone from West Baltimore. Paul, how are you?
Dr. K, every morning when I get up, I thank God for all the wonderful things he's doing in my life, and he puts a smile on my face now. Monday when I got up, because it was Monday morning and my Ravens team lost, I was feeling a little down, but I mean, after last night, oh my goodness, I rejoiced so much today. But here's the thing. Donald Trump is already preparing himself for
yes,
war,
he is.
for what's coming.
Yes,
He already, Jeff Sessions, he got rid of him. He's going to seek to find somebody in his replacement that's going to go after Hillary Clinton, and that's been, 20 years ago almost.
Yes.
But he's he's preparing himself for war. But the American people spoke. Now,
yes.
A lot of the white women that voted for the way you're saying is because out of fear what their husbands are telling them. It's all that is out of fear. It's the old, if we don't vote blue, this is going to, not blue, red, this is going to happen to us. Our children aren't going to have a future.
Right. Yeah.
That's how they vote.
We're going to lose everything we've worked for. They're coming after us. And there'll be no one left to speak up for us.
The Hispanic people are going to come over and take all your jobs and all that. Now, here's the thing, Dr. K, and I'll let you go. The thing about building a wall and Hispanic taking their jobs, it is the white Caucasian males who own, let's say, like when you go out and you drive and you see the Latino guys out there working on the road, whatever.
Right.
Well, these are private contractors. These are the white males that are employing these people.
Right.
And nobody never talks about it. They are the ones who give the jobs to the illegals. They are
to people
ones
who are undocumented, not illegals, but the undocumented.
I'm sorry, undocumented. Yes, so when we hear about building a wall and all this whatever, it's like, look, you don't have to build a wall. Why don't you lock up the people that harm? That's all
I agree.
I agree. And it goes away.
Right.
So why won't they do that?
Turn it back on the people who are actually doing the work on this side, right? So that's just saying, don't just go on the people who are undocumented, because if they show up to work and you give them a job, then really on both sides there's an issue, because they are working. Thank you so much, Paul. I'm glad you woke up. I'm glad you woke up smiling. Folks, in terms of waking up smiling, I'll tell you what got me. Here we go. I'm just going to throw this out. Then I'm going to go to Halim, and I have Professor Shipp on the phone. Listen to this, folks. In a historic first, Massachusetts voters elected Democrat Ayanna Pressley. She became the state's first Black congresswoman. She took over the seat that JFK once held. Michigan Democrats also turned out huge for women. The state elected For every statewide office on Tuesday's ballot, they elected women for governor, U.S. Senator, Attorney General, Secretary of State. I mean, I actually might move to Michigan. Native American women also made history. Sharice Davis from Kansas and Deb Haaland from New Mexico were elected to Congress, a first for America. 2 Native American women are going to Congress. Muslim women have also made history. Detroit-born Democrat Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar of Minnesota are headed to Congress, the first Muslim women to do so. And Stacey Abrams, I mean, I love her, and she is fighting through. Here she is dealing with all kind of voter suppression tactics, lack of power cores for voting machines and majority Black voting precincts. They had a new exact match voting law. She's running against the dude who's a Secretary of State. They had a mass removal of tens of thousands of inactive voters from the state rolls, and Stacey Abrams is standing strong. She has not conceded. She says she won't concede until every vote is counted or there's a runoff. I like that. Standing tall. We have Halim on the phone. Halim's a new caller from downtown Baltimore. Welcome to the family.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
Okay, so we say that politics is local.
Yes.
All right. Now, I'm looking at Baltimore City, where I was born and raised, except for the time when I was in the military. This
Yes.
has been my home. New school has not been built since 1997.
Yes, I know.
1994.
Right, back in the 1990s, right? Yes.
We've had 4 Black mayors, controller of the city council.
Yep.
Now, they've helped to gentrify the city, and we have new people coming in. All of a sudden, we're getting new schools built.
Right. Or the 21st century schools. Also, the schools a lot of them are falling apart, but I get what you're saying. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm saying, you have Black faces, but are they working in the interest of our people?
Mm-hmm.
And we've had 3 Black women mayors. So just because it's a woman doesn't necessarily mean that her heart is going to be in the right place.
Right.
So I'm saying, when you vote, you got to vote with conscience, not just, based on a D or R or a woman or a man.
Mm-hmm.
And these individuals have not given us what they have promised us. The Democrat, we vote 95% Democrats, and the Democratic Party has not done jack.
Right.
For the African American.
Well, let me ask you this, Halim. I agree with what you're saying. When you go into the voting booth, I mean, because now the voting's over, we can all be, really honest here. When you go into the voting booth, do you put your race aside? Do you put your gender aside? Do you put all that aside and you just kind of vote on a candidate, or do you take that into account?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I used to think about my race.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to see Black people in office. I wanted to see Black people in positions to do the things that we used to do for each other. But now,
okay,
I don't care.
Okay.
I don't care if it's a Democrat. I don't care if it's a woman. I don't care if it's a man. I don't care if it's a Republican. It's who is going to do the work. Now,
right. And we also understand that historically, who has been in positions to then do the work, it's historically been white people and males. Historically. So when we start talking about women getting in and sweeping the wave, it's in a sense something rare to have 90 women going into Congress. That is the first time in the history of this country.
Okay, I can appreciate that from an emotional standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Or giving them an opportunity to do things differently.
I appreciate that, but historically, they haven't done anything different.
Well, we haven't had a chance to get. You got to give them a chance to get in office. The 90 women that are going there, we got to see, is that going to make a difference in what's going to happen? It's never been the majority like that, with that many.
What I've seen from the women mayors in Baltimore City is neglect of the Black community.
And wait a minute, you mean in the last 3 mayors? Are you sure you're saying that all the way down from the last 3 Black women that were mayors, you feel that all 3 of them have neglected? Are you sure?
When I look at the people doing the work in Baltimore City, I see a systematic displacement of Black people. I see. They were sitting at the table when the plans was made to make Baltimore a world-class city. And what did they say? We're going to move certain ones out.
But don't you think that that's a big charge to say that all the last three of them have done nothing? I mean, I remember people talked about the work of Sheila Dixon, even riding behind, hanging on the back of the garbage trucks, going into the communities, being down there when things were happening. But you're saying, in your opinion, none of them have done anything. I appreciate that.
I haven't seen them dedicate their mayoralship to the upliftment of the Black community.
That's a huge statement to make. Thank you so much, Halim. I have Professor E.R. Shipp on the line. Professor Shipp, she's a professor here at Morgan State University. She's a column in the Baltimore Sun. She's a Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist. How are you, Professor Shipp?
I'm fine, but Dr. K, technically this is my first time calling in on the show.
Oh, wait a minute. I need to welcome you to the family. She's usually in the studio with me. Professor Shipp, I just wanted to get you on the phone. I'm not sure how long you can stay. I'm looking at Justine. I hope for a little while because I want to take some calls. But I want to just begin by asking you to give us a sense of what happened last night. I mean, I'm excited. I've laid down all the things I think we've gained, lost, some things we just kind of remain the same. But from your perspective, having seen, with this long arm of history and covering the news, what do you think really happened last night? What did we gain?
Well, it gave us an opportunity, those of us who decided to vote, to kind of change from just venting about the last 2 years to taking some steps towards changing the future. Now, change doesn't come quickly, but it's getting us in the marching mood and the marching mode so that we're now focusing on issues and focusing on the personnel who might be able to help us as we go forward. So there were no great miracles, of course, in the outcomes of the races last night, but I think it's got people focused and able to do something besides complain.
I wonder, too, if a victory from last night, I mean, this is from yesterday, even in going into dealing with the preterm elections and everything, I wonder if a victory is that people were motivated. People were energized.
Right.
I mean, I have seen midterm elections just fizzle out in this country. People got to the polls. If it was 4 or 5 hours, I mean, they were standing in line like people stand in line for a presidential election.
And that was what was also so encouraging to see that. We also saw a lot of younger people coming out to vote. There's still some debate among younger people, as there will be, as to whether it makes a difference, whether this is something that involves, covers their interests at all. But I saw a lot more interest in young people registering in voting and in asking questions. Now, it may help that I'm at a university campus, but we saw a lot more young people asking questions, harder questions about both parties, and asking questions about the viability of some of the third-party options.
Now, what is interesting to me is that there were 3 candidates in particular. I just want to point out, and callers, I know you're there. I'm coming to you in just a second. 3 candidates in particular, what they call our big national rising stars, were all but wiped out. And so, we have Andrew Gillum in Florida, and you had everybody was campaigning from him, from P. Diddy throwing him parties. Barack Obama was on the campaign trail. I think at the last moment, Rihanna threw her support behind him. So we had Stacey Abrams in Georgia. I mean, Oprah was on the campaign trail knocking on doors for her.
Right.
And then you had Beto O'Rourke. And Beyonce came at the last minute and threw her support behind Beto O'Rourke. I mean, we had basketball players, wearing hats with his name on it, going out onto the court. Mm-hmm. But when you look at what happened at the end, Gillum lost narrowly. Abrams is losing less narrowly, right? She hasn't conceded yet, and I know she's holding on. I'm standing with her. And O'Rourke overperformed past Democrats in Texas, but he still lost.
But I think what you have to look at is that we made some incremental progress towards getting voters to think differently about candidates.
Yes.
So a lot of white women seem to be shifting some of their allegiance to Trump. We saw that, or at least allegiance to the conservative wing of the Republican Party. We saw more younger people embracing some of the candidates you named. So now they are becoming a little bit more engaged. And we saw that that women were being given a more serious consideration in some places that we hadn't seen that before, and black people were given more consideration. I don't think that either of the gubernatorial candidates, the black gubernatorial candidates, would have come so far in years past. So I think we're seeing some incremental change. Now, the key now is to build upon that. Each of these candidates established a base of support, voters as well as financial supporters, and they need to build upon that, hold that in place so that they can, and the Democratic Party in these cases, can have a running start towards 2020 and beyond.
Right. I mean, they're already mentioning Beto as a possible vice presidential candidate, or mounting his own campaign. I heard some people throwing around Biden Beto already. I'm like, hey, don't sleep on Stacey Abrams. Don't sleep on Andrew Gillum. There's a possibility that they'll be able to take that steamroll and keep moving with it.
So I think the way to look at last night is not that these candidates lost, but they came as further than others had in the past, and they are showing that the electorate is beginning to shift,
which is exciting. Folks, we're going to hold it for a moment. When we come back, Professor Shipp and I are going to open up the phones. So Nathan, Robert, Gerald, I'm coming to you right after the break. Folks, it's November 7th. Finally, the election is over. The dust has settled, and now we can pick up the pieces and figure out, what did we lose? What did we win? Where do we go from here? And how do we keep this ball moving toward helping to establish the type of nation that we want to live in? This is Today with Dr. K. I'm Dr. K. Wise Whitehead. Stay with us.
Into the cultural, academic, controversial, and always thought-provoking conversations happening Monday through Friday from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. on For the Culture. We got those conversations that will get you talking, thinking, and laughing wherever you are. So ride with me weeknights from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. with For the Culture, here on your source for cool jazz and more, WEAA 88.9 FM and WEAA.org, the voice of the community.
WEAA on Assignment, a look at the arts, culture, and enterprise in and around our city. Reported and produced by students of the School of Global Journalism and Communication at Morgan State University. Support for WEAA on Assignment comes from PNC.
Members of Morgan State University's Marching Machine are excited to be honored with the opportunity to march in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, Thanksgiving Day 2019. Marching band director Melvin Miles announced the news during homecoming, and it has since shined a light on the band.
I'm excited in how the university is responding to it. The university is embracing it. They're very excited about it. Everybody's responding to it very favorably. Everywhere we go, or when students go, they're giving that nod of approval that it's a big deal, it's a big thing. And so we're kind of excited about it, kind of stoked.
Arthur Crowner, a freshman to Morgan State University and a trumpeter of the Bear Band, has dreamed about this day since he was a kid.
I got so excited because I honestly used to talk about that with my parents. One day I'm going to be up there, but this is soon. It's like really close now.
Although she won't be participating, senior and trumpeter Kayla Johnson isn't bitter. Instead, she's just as happy and proud for her bandmates.
Oh man, it was amazing. It was crazy. Like, to know that people start to recognize all the hard work and dedication that we've been putting into this band program for the last 5 years. I've definitely seen the band grow since I've been here. I was really excited, and actually I was sad that I couldn't march next year because I'll be gone.
With an entire year ahead and the anticipation of millions of eyes on them, Miles and his marching machine have begun practices with a 2019 goal in mind.
We will be reminding people, these are the things we got to achieve for them. We've got a date where we're going to be built to a whole bunch of people that don't get to see us. And so we need to make sure that we start out the semester, start out the year, working real hard to be really sharp in every kind of way.
I'm Misha McDonald with WEAA on Assignment.
This has been an installment of WEAA on Assignment with support from PNC.
Listen live to your favorite public radio station, streaming now at WEAA.org.
Welcome back to Today with Dr. K. I'm Dr. K. Wise Whitehead. Folks, we're talking about post-election midterms. Can you believe that? We're talking about the midterm post-elections. I think that's historic in and of itself because typically midterms are pretty lackluster. Yesterday, what was on the ballot? Hate, division, democracy, civility, all those things seem to be on the ballot. Here in Maryland, Jane Miller tweeted out, "One should we remember as we debate whether Maryland is blue, purple, or pink, this is a state where voters approve gun control, abortion rights, and gay marriage at the ballot box. Not many states have been progressive enough to hit that trifecta." So think about that and everything that's been going on in Maryland, including the reelection of Governor Hogan. Brian Frosh is back. Peter Franchot is back. And you voted yes to lock the box from those casinos and get that money turned over to our school systems, which is where it belongs. I'm joined again by Professor E.R. Shipp. Professor Shipp, thank you for staying with us. All right, we're going to see if we can turn her up. And while they're working on E.R. Shipp's line, I'm going to go ahead and take some calls. Nathan from White Marsh. Nathan, how are you? All right, Nathan, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. This election was a referendum on whiteness in America.
Okay.
That's all it was, because all these candidates, like you said, the one in Georgia, the one in Maryland, all these governors.
Yes.
The white people came, the so-called white people, because they're not white people, they're Europeans. They came out and voted for these Republicans because they're white. That's the only reason. It wasn't that the Democrats didn't give enough money to Ben Jealous or any other thing. Democrats could have gave Ben Jealous all the money he needed, but white people in America refuse to be governed by black people. That's what America stands for, white nationalism. Our founding fathers was white nationalists. So this should be a referendum on, this should wake up black people to see that you'll never have a change in
Okay,
America.
well, see now, well, you know what? I'm sorry. You had me all the way up to the end. I don't like throwing out these sweeping generalizations. We're never going to have, you know what? Because when we were enslaved, people said you're never going to be free in terms of legally being free. No, Nathan, mute him because I let you talk. I'm responding to you now. So you can't just say we're never going to have. I think part of the work we do to get to have is we keep pushing, we keep running, we keep participating. I know that this country, if you think about what happened in Illinois on Tuesday, thousands of Republicans voted for a long-time Nazi who now prefers to describe himself as a white racialist in Virginia. I know that more than 1 million people cast ballots for a neo-Confederate running for Senate. I know white nationalism was on the ballot. I know that. I know Trump speaks to white identity politics. I know that. I also know at the same time that we sent so many different people, from the first openly gay governor to sending Native American women to Congress, Muslim women to Congress, the first black woman being elected to a state office, attorney general in New York. I'm sorry, there were a lot of things on the ballot, and people of color pushed through and made some real changes. Professor Shipp, are you with us now? All right, Nathan, did you want to respond, sir?
I won't respond. I just want to know what year and what century that America going to change.
What year? Hold on, wait a minute. Now, you're asking me, just so I can be clear. I want to be very, very clear with you. You're asking me to sit here and honestly tell you what year and what century America is going to change. Brother, if I knew that, trust and believe me, I wouldn't be sitting behind this microphone. I'd make millions of dollars already planning for that future. But the wonderful thing about the future is the one that we create. So I can't tell you what day change is going to come. I can believe the change is coming, though.
There is change.
Hello, Professor Shipp, you're back with us. Go ahead, ma'am.
I'm here. I was going to say there is change. It's not necessarily in any kind of sweeping fashion, but just the very things you have articulated about the outcomes of the election show that there is change. I wanted to address another point. Yes, there is white supremacy, white nationalism, but there's also free choice. And a lot of black people chose not to vote for Ben Jealous. So you can't overlook the fact that it's not just white people came out in droves for Hogan, but a lot of black people liked him. I think he got about 30% of the black vote.
Yes, he did. There were a number of black, and I know that when Deja joins us on Intern, she was talking to people last night. I know a lot of black people who came out, Professor Shipp, on Facebook and said, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I heard that a number of times.
That was it.
Yeah, no, I like what Hogan is doing. So people didn't just vote color when it came to the governorship. They voted for the person who they believe stood for their interests. That's progress, in my opinion. Yeah. There was something somebody said on my show yesterday, Professor Shipp, that I really loved, but he said that his father taught him that there are 4 doors, the confessional booth, the bathroom, the bedroom, and the polling booth. Those are the doors that you don't have to tell anybody what you did behind those doors. You can go in, and it's your private time to make a decision. When you get into that booth, you don't have to answer to anyone for the decisions that you make. You voted your best interest. And to me, what we're asking is just for you to vote.
And we also, I think one of the things that we learned here in Baltimore in particular is that we need to do a much better job of educating people about what is actually on the ballot other than the personalities at the top of the ticket. Because I saw, and I myself was a bit taken aback by how little I knew about some of the questions on the ballot, and particularly the way they are worded. So there's a lot of work to be done, not just to get people registered to vote, but to educate people about what it is they're being asked to vote for.
I absolutely agree. And I would say that one of the things that we did do on this show on Friday and on Monday, we broke down those referendum questions because of that exact reason. You don't know what you're voting for. When it was worded about the bonds, you're not really clear that really what they're talking about is trying to update our libraries and our parks. Let me go back to some calls here. We have Gerald on the phone. Gerald, how are you? Welcome to Today with Dr. K.
Hello, that's me?
Yes. How are you?
It's Joe. It's Joe. Okay.
It's Joe. I'm sorry about that.
But the professor just said something that was very powerful. We have to educate, and that's the big challenge of today's voting to me. And today's with so much information out there, because first you have to educate African Americans and all people the value of voting, and somehow because we take it so lightly, and even after we have number 45 in there, some people still take it so lightly that just going into a booth and putting some little marks on a paper can make a difference with your everyday life. So we got to continue to educate young people, especially about that. It does make a difference. And the other thing, I think what caller Nathan said was I think it was a little too narrow, but I think Trump's election and this election show that there is a hardcore group of and I won't just call white people, but Europe, whatever, who don't want this country to keep moving in the direction that it was. Because I think before Trump, most of us were caught in sleep, thinking that most people believe that America should be for fairness and equality. Right. Even though they didn't, every day they may not practice it, but they thought that was a fundamental value. But we know now that there are a group of people here who have the same mentality that they had back. And then maybe not slavery time, but a little bit after that, white is right, black, get back, brown, you might stick around a little bit. But even now, it's like brown don't even come across the border. But we have that core is out there. We need to work and educate and let people know that that's a reality. But I'm so glad that there are some people. Right. And for me, it's the women who have the courage to say, we're going to step forward and change things. I'm glad they're there. And I'm hoping even more young men step out too and say, we want to change this place and make it a better place.
Thank you so much, Gerald. Professor Shipp, we saw some of that voter suppression that he's talking about in Georgia. I mean, you show up to vote. Yes.
My home state. It wasn't surprising, but it was just so disappointing. And you saw it at the very last, how people were still being denied the recognition of their ballots. Or even of their registration, number one. It was, I think, the Kemp, who is the Secretary of State, and also the Republican nominee, now governor-elect perhaps. He was doing all he could to purge the voting rolls. So that was continuing. And then on election day, you have some of the things you mentioned before. Missing ballots, voting machines that were not ready to be
swollen ballots that couldn't be put in the machine. I don't even know what that means.
All kinds of craziness at the very end. Now, the NAACP and others went to court and were able to forestall some of those techniques. But the bottom line is, I think Kemp will probably pull this out. And it's just so evident how the election was stolen.
Yes.
So that is also another lesson. Yes, we can run to court, but by the time you resolve a court case, someone will probably have been in office for a little while.
Right.
So we have to be proactive. We know what they're going to be throwing at you. So if your name is officially John Q. Brown, we got to tell people they got to sign it on the ballot, John Q. Brown.
Right, to be very clear.
Know to do all of those little things because you know that's going to be used again.
In 2018. We have Robert on the phone from Northwest Baltimore. Robert, how are you?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
Listen, you tapped into a little bit things. That was very interesting. I don't live in Baltimore City anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm very much interested in whether or not, okay, when you lose the general election to one of your favorite candidates, say Ben Jealous, okay?
Right.
Is it any spectrum that we win in another end, such as the bond issues?
Right.
Any of the bond issues that positively impacted black community, was they passed yesterday? You know,
right.
The one-on-one sessions of a candidate meeting his goals or promises, it becomes irrelevant if we can't get back some of our taxpayer money to make a positive impact in our community.
Right. And the thing I just think maybe what you're tapping into is something that ER mentioned a little bit earlier, this idea that there were a number of things on the ballot beyond just people. I mentioned about the lock box initiative. 88% of the people voted to lock that money so it can go towards education. We had election day voter registration. That was on the ballot. 67% of the people went in that way.
Of the water supply in Baltimore was on the ballot.
Yes, so these things were there.
Okay,
yes.
But my issue is this. Was any of the legislation, you know, we send our legislators down
right.
to legislate.
Right.
And my issue is, did they legislate any amendments or laws that would imply there'd be an increase in the visibility and existence of, say, the Black Wax Museum?
I did not see the Blacks and Wax Museum on there.
The theater down here off McCullough Street Arena Playhouse.
That was not on there as well.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about. We have to start. Where's our interest?
All right, so I'm going to stop you there, Robert. Thank you so much. The thing that he's kind of tapping into, Professor Shipp, is the work that we do with our council people. So when you start talking about the interests of, I don't know, Blacks and Wax Museum, which you mentioned, or the arena players, each area in this city, there's a council person. Find out who the council person is that handles that. Those are things that are done at the local level. Last night, there were some bigger issues that we were dealing with as a state that we were voting on and dealing with here in Baltimore City. There were things on the election ballot, things like, you know, getting money so that we can update Enoch Pratt Library, getting money for the parks, you know, getting a bond fund set up for the race equity and access. So there were things like that on the ballot. But I think the specific things that Robert's talking about, I would suggest that he would go to his council people.
I think so. And actually, on occasion, and I don't recall whether it was on this particular ballot, but on occasion, there are bond issues that talk about funds for some of the cultural institutions.
Yes, it was not on this one, but this one dealt with bond issues for the Pratt Library and the parks.
Right. So yes, you're right. You should talk to council members. Yeah. I still run into people in Baltimore who don't know what it is that a council member can do. and therefore it doesn't occur to them to call upon those
right.
people.
Because
So
Governor Hogan is not
too.
going to get your lights fixed. He's not going to get, I mean, that's not what his job is. On this level, you can go right to your council people, which is the first step. It's just going right online to the Baltimore City website and finding out who the council person is. We have Deja Edwards in the studio. Deja is an intern for Today with Dr. K. She's also a student here at Morgan State University. Last night, Professor Shipp, Deja went out to the Hogan event, the Hogan celebration. And so I just wanted to ask Deja, so exactly what happened last night, Deja? You know, what did you see? You know, what did you learn in being in this space when Hogan gave his speech that, you know, he is back in office again?
I was very excited when they told me that I would have to go to his watch party. I'd never been to an event like that. So I was very anxious to get out there and see what that was like. Once we got there, I went with the 2 other students. They went with me. And it was very, there weren't a lot of people there when we got there initially, but there were a lot of press. So the press, we were told for our assignment that we were supposed to go in there and, you know, get interviews and kind of interact with people. We tried. So we tried to find the friendly faces in the crowd. To kind of pick out who we would be most comfortable, because I myself have never actually went out into the field and conducted interviews and stuff like that, especially not in this type of atmosphere. So that was kind of a little nerve-wracking for me. But we did actually get an interview with a Morgan alum. His name was Winston Wilkinson. And he was a supporter of Hogan.
So is he now, Winston, is he an African-American?
He is.
So can you tell us very quickly just kind of what he talked about when he expressed his support of Governor Hogan, which Professor Shipp goes into what we just said in terms of a number of Black people who came out in droves and supported Hogan. So what did Winston say?
He said that he because we asked him specific issues that Hogan was an advocate for that he agreed with. And he was very enthusiastic about Hogan's efforts to create more jobs, which he believed would be an ultimate boost to the economy, which I think is a good thing to be in support of. I myself am not fluent in politics, so I'm not necessarily going to choose sides either way. But I think that's something that you should be an advocate for. As far as Black people coming out in crowds, in the crowd that was there actually weren't that many Black people. But he came in, he was with his family, he was smiling, and he was happy to be there. So that definitely made us feel a lot more comfortable in that atmosphere, because most of the press and everybody that was there, they weren't necessarily in the crowds. They were kind of doing their stories from the side of the room, kind of.
All right. Thank you so much, Deja Edwards. Our intern went to Governor Hogan's event last night to cover it. Professor Shipp.
Students all over the city.
I was going to have you talk about that. So that's one of the wonderful things here about the School of Global Journalism and Communication, your voice, your vote. So where did the students go?
We had them in various precincts around the city to check on the polls and also to attend some of these parties at the polls that were going on. So students were in Southeast Baltimore, East Baltimore, West Baltimore, around the Morgan area, and probably some places I'm forgetting right now. But we had them scattered all around the city just to sort of get a sense of what are people talking about, why are they voting this time if they hadn't voted before, what is it that was motivating this time around. We also wanted our students to just get the practice. A number of them, like Deja said, they're not very conversant in politics. We wanted to sort of demystify what politics is all about, because they could see real people reacting to real problems and trying to connect those issues with what's on the ballot.
Excellent. That's why students were on the ground. Let's get back to some callers, folks. We're talking about the election results. How was it for you last night? Nail biting? It was gripping. I have never been so excited about midterms before. And I can actually say, Professor Shipp, in my life, I've never been excited. The last time I had this kind of excitement, we were electing Barack Obama the first time, not the second time, the first time. We have Stephen on the phone from Severn. Stephen, how are you?
I'm well, Dr. K. Thank you for taking my call.
Absolutely.
I think my most exciting midterm was in 2006 when we did, but the Democrats ousted the Republicans that took us into Iraq.
Yes.
I haven't missed election since I was 19 when George Bush was selected. And I missed that election. I haven't missed an election since to vote against whoever took us into Iraq and ignored Osama bin Laden. But yesterday, I'm excited about. I tried not to get engaged too deeply in the election results last night. So, but in Howard County and Anne Arundel County and Baltimore County, I was excited to see the rejection of, the racist politics that have, overtaken the Republican Party. And John Grasso, who ran for state senate in Anne Arundel County, was rejected. And Calvin Ball won in Howard County as the executive, who's a black man, young black man, and he initiated a what do they call the asylum
for political asylum for people coming into the country?
But what do they call the towns? What are the towns that
sanctuary cities?
The sanctuary cities.
The sanctuary city legislation.
Yes.
He initiated sanctuary city legislation as soon as Trump was elected, and Alan Kittelman, who was the CEO at the time, he said he wasn't going to sign it, and it didn't pass. But I think that outside of other local issues, that was something that I was excited to see Calvin Ball take the lead on, and Johnny O in Baltimore County also won out. So those things kind of excited me.
Nice.
I'm disappointed about Ben Jealous not winning, and black men, I think, are the ones who most disappoint me in our willingness to go along, to get along, and ignore what's really going on. And what you were saying before about people being educated is going to be a very difficult over the next 2 years and from now on, really, in this age of digital media, where people can be siloed in their own little information echo chambers. And I think that it's going to be very difficult for us to be able to identify and define issues in the future that are going to turn people out on at a massive level, to be able to increase wages, spread health care, improve education systems.
All right. Thank you so much, Stephen. Professor Shipp, I'm going to do a couple other calls and then I want to have you respond. We have Lisa on. Lisa's a new caller from Baltimore. Lisa, welcome to the family.
Hi, Dr. K. I have a question. I think that we need to really start looking at the Democratic Party here in Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Jealous wasn't properly funded. He wasn't properly supported by the Democratic establishment. And it also happened with Anthony Brown. I mean, Anthony Brown was a different type of candidate. He had already been known to the state, so people already knew about him. But I think the Democratic Party in the state doesn't really support some of the Democratic candidates the way that they should.
I can see that in terms of trying to galvanize more support. What's interesting, and Professor Shipp kind of touched on this, in terms of educating people, and I think finding ways, Lisa, maybe you can agree, to get people more excited and motivated before we get down to the end. I mean, there were a lot of people who came in to support Ben Jealous, but it really seemed to be near the end. How do we get people excited and keep them excited over the long haul?
I think that the Democratic establishment wanted Rushern Baker, and not Ben Jealous. So when Ben Jealous won, they took back their support, their financial support, their endorsements, the way that they should have gone behind anybody who won the Democratic primary. I just can't continue to support the Democratic establishment here in Maryland if they continue to do this each and every time. They did it with Donna Edwards.
Yes, they did.
Ben Jealous. So I mean, we need a viable third party.
We do. We do. I think it is way beyond that time. Thank you so much, Professor Shipp. I'm sorry, Professor Shipp. Lisa, Professor Shipp, I have called often for a viable third party. I mean, I know that right now we are locked in a very heavy two-party system, and you're either Democrat or Republican. Those of us who are independent, there are candidates who come, I'm thinking Green Party candidates, Libertarian candidates, but we don't seem to have a viable third party platform and candidate that we can push and get behind if we find that those one or two parties that are out there are not meeting our needs. Is that something that we have the potential to actually create?
That's a difficult one because the history of this country shows that it's very difficult for third parties to succeed. So people tend to go along with the existing structure. I would say try for third party, but be prepared to be on that journey for a long time. I think what people should do is to try to find ways to infiltrate and change the existing parties that do have the infrastructure in place. So that might be, I keep envisioning that people at the local level, particularly in Baltimore, should take over the Republican Party.
Yes.
And make it be something that they needed to be at our local and state levels. And
so
then
that would be pretty radical here in Baltimore.
The national, but definitely you could take over and be a counterweight to the Democrats who have the monopoly in Baltimore.
And I think that will get to what Lisa was saying. Yes.
In all of that. But back to the time for educating people to get them prepared for the next elections, 2020. Our friend Rochelle Riley posted something this morning on Facebook. There are 727 days until Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020.
Man.
So let's get started.
728 days, folks. We're going to leave it here for just a second. When we come back, Justina has given me the okay to extend this session a little bit longer. We know that it's the day after the midterms. Everybody wants to talk about it. We'll hold off on launching our parenting roundtable until the half to give people a chance to talk. So Cynthia, Dwayne, Thomas, Curtis, Sharon, do not hang up. Professor Shipp, will you be able to stay with us?
Try to hang in here. I'm
okay.
Still sleepy myself.
I know you're sleepy. Thank you so much for hanging on. Folks, it's Today with Dr. K. Hang on. Let's finish talking about the midterms. We are excited. Let's talk about what this means. 728 days to go until we elect our new president in 2020. Let's get to work. And there's a quick update from MTA. We'll talk on the other side.
And a good afternoon. On the Metro subway link, we're seeing about a 10-minute delay in the westbound direction. On the Penn train of the MARC train system, train 537, running about 5 to 10 minutes late, heading to the Washington area. No other delays anywhere on the MARC system. Light rail link is on time, and we've got no delays on the MTA commuter buses. Local link bus diversions include the Lime Line westbound at Eastern and Eden, the Lime Line southbound diverted at Caroline and Gulf, and the Lime Line also diverted at Druid Hill and Cloverdale. For the MTA transit team, I'm Ken Berger on 88.9 FM WEAA, the voice of the community.
We bring the world to you. I'm Amy Goodman, host of Democracy Now!, where we cover hard-hitting news stories that matter, such as ordinary people from around the world affected by U.S. foreign policy, grassroots leaders, activists, analysts, and so much more. Join me and Juan Gonzalez on Democracy Now! Right here on Public Radio WEAA 88.9 FM, the voice of the community.
Weekday mornings at 5 a.m. on WEAA 88.9 FM.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sandy Mallory, the Public Service Director and host of Cool Vibes with the Neo Soul Cafe, heard during the middays, Monday through Friday. I want to take a moment to thank each of you for your assistance during the fall membership drive. Whether a large or small donation, each one stood for something. Your desire to keep WEAA available for everyone. There is still a need for your support. Please consider sending your tax-deductible donation to WEAA.org. Support your community radio station today.
Peace. This is Faraji Muhammad. Tune into the cultural, academic, controversial, and always thought-provoking conversations happening Monday through Friday from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. on For the Culture. We got those conversations that will get you talking, thinking, and laughing wherever you are. So ride with me weeknights from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. with For the Culture here on your source for cool jazz and more, WEAA 88.9 FM. and WEAA.org, the voice of the community.
Celebrating 40 years of broadcasting. Morgan State University Public Radio. 88.9 WEAA FM and HD1, Baltimore.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Attorney General Jeff Sessions is resigning under pressure from President Donald Trump. And as NPR's Tamara Keith explains, Trump says he will replace Sessions with his own chief of staff, Matthew Whitaker, on an acting basis.
President Trump never forgave Attorney General Sessions for recusing himself from the Russia investigation, publicly berating him in interviews and tweets. The first line of Sessions' resignation letter makes it clear he isn't leaving by choice. At your request, I am submitting my resignation, he writes. One very big question this opens up is what will happen to the special counsel investigation. Whitaker, who has been a critic, will oversee it now. The announcement comes just hours after President Trump was dealt a defeat, with Democrats taking control of the House and promising to investigate his administration. Though there will be more Republicans in the Senate in the new year, which could make it easier for Trump to get a replacement confirmed. Tamara Keith, NPR News, the White House.
Well, at a White House news conference earlier today, President Trump gave no indication that he would show the Attorney General the door, nor has he tipped his hand on Robert Mueller, the special counsel running the Russia investigation that Trump often calls a witch hunt. When asked if he intends to fire Mueller, Trump said he could have done it a long time ago.
I could have ended it any time I wanted. I didn't. And there was no collusion. There was no anything. I didn't.
But both Democratic and Republican critics have warned it would be a mistake to fire Mueller, among them Congressman Adam Schiff, who for the last 2 years has battled with Republicans on the powerful House Intelligence Committee over the Russia investigation. Now that the Democrats have won back control of the U.S. House, Schiff tells NPR's All Things Considered what one of the first orders of business for the panel will be.
I think it's going to be enormously important that the committee protect the investigation of Bob Mueller instead of attack it. So that will be quite a sea change for our committee. But we're also going to want to restore the relationship between our committee and the intelligence community and law enforcement that was so badly damaged by the publication of the Nunes Memorandum.
Committee Chairman Devin Nunes, a Trump ally, released a GOP-backed 4-page memorandum written by his staff. It accused the FBI of relying on politically motivated or unreliable sources early in its probe into Russia's interference in the 2016 election. Well, the caravan of Central American migrants, a lightning rod during the Republican midterm campaigns, continues its journey toward the United States border. Officials in Mexico City say that they expected as many as 1,000 additional people would arrive at a local stadium. A total of more than 4,000 people are estimated to be part of this caravan. Majority of them are from Honduras, many of them men. However, there are also large numbers of women and children. Before the close, the Dow was up. This is NPR.
New accident just came in. Allentown Street, south of Edmondson Avenue at West Franklin. Watch for police and fire department to be arriving on the scene. Accidents cleaning up on North Green at West Mulberry. South Conkling Street tied up with a crash at Bank Street. Saratoga at North Green Street. Watch for accident activity there as well as an accident cleaning up on Honeygo Boulevard at White Marsh Boulevard. Around the Beltway, volume continuing to build on the inner loop from 95 and Halethorpe, getting up through Security Boulevard and slowing again from Green Spring Avenue around towards Perring Parkway. Outer loop a little sluggish from Route 1 and starting to build some volume around towards JFX. Heavy volume from 795 through Edmondson Avenue and starting to jam up now between 895 and Camp Mead Road. A little busy right now at Ritchie Highway, getting through the Arundel Expressway to head towards the Curtis Creek Drawbridge. This report is service of unbound.org, and for more traffic information, make sure to log on to sigalert.com. I'm Paula Young with your Baltimore area traffic.
88.9 FM reminds you that the views expressed on WEAA programs are those of participants and not necessarily those of Morgan State University, the staff, management, or underwriters of Baltimore's home for cool jazz. WEAA 88.9 FM.
Welcome back to Today with Dr. K. I'm Dr. K. Wise Whitehead. I'm still joined by Professor E.R. Shipp. She's a Morgan professor, a Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist, and she writes an op-ed column for the Baltimore Sun. Professor Shipp, thank you for staying with us.
sure.
I know you were on duty last night, working hard. So thank you for hanging out with us a little bit longer. I want to get the phone lines back open, 410-319-8888. We're going to spend the next half, folks, talking about the election results. And then at 4:30, we're going to launch into our parenting roundtable. I'm very excited to pull that segment back. So Professor Shipp, some statistics were just shared with me. They just came across on Twitter. And I want to put those out there and just so we can talk about them. So down in Georgia, Stacey Abrams and Kemp, of course, was Secretary of State down there in Georgia. But I look at the results broken down by gender and by race. So for Black women, 97% of Black women voted for Stacey Abrams, which makes sense to me. 2% voted for Kemp. Black men, 87% voted for Abrams, 12% for Kemp. Listen to this. White men, 24% voted for Abrams, 73% voted for Kemp. But the one that surprised me, white women, 24% of them voted for Abrams, 76% of white women voted for Kemp.
Yep.
And this, to me, is reminiscent of what we saw after the election of Donald Trump.
That's right. And that's why it's so difficult for Black women in particular to accept this notion of sisterhood, we're all in it together,
right,
when white women start leading their marches on Washington to protest abortion rights or other things without acknowledging that they've not been an ally of Black women and Black people when it comes to other issues.
Now, it's very interesting because I was thinking, I was just sitting down here and saying, so do white women, this is not believe me, folks, if this is not you, I'm not talking specifically about you. We're generalizing because we saw the same kind of breakdown when we were dealing with Beto O'Rourke and Cruz, the same kind of breakdown. Beto O'Rourke, 39% of white women voted for O'Rourke, 59% voted for Cruz. We saw the same type of breakdown with Gillum and DeSantis, where white women, 47%, that was a little bit closer, but 51% voted for DeSantis. So I'm just wondering, we start talking about sisterhood, like you just said, sisterhood being a verb. What will it take to get people that are not Black, who are not same-sex preference, who are not trans, who are not Hispanic, right? So that leaves that category of white people who are, they claim to be heterosexual out loud. So what will it take to get them to support these progressive candidates who tend to be Black, Hispanic, trans, same-sex preference? Like, we can't seem to get the wave of support to go into those communities behind these candidates.
I wish I knew that answer too. But sometimes it takes that one-on-one relationship building to seek to sort of convince them of the rightness of your position.
Oh, that's a lot.
Sometimes
that's a lot of work.
Their children marrying people of color, or marrying a gay person, or marrying a trans person, for them to begin to even think that these issues have any relevance to them. It's very hard, it seems, to appeal to them on a broad basis, just on the basis of reason.
Think about that,
they can't seem to get beyond their own racial identity when it comes to some of these issues.
I want to put that on the table. I'll open up the phones, 410-319-8888. Let's talk about the election. I have Sharon from Catonsville. Sharon, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. And I'm calling in reference to the re-election of Governor Hogan.
Yes.
And I certainly want to put the challenge out to all Black people who supported Governor Hogan to ask Governor Hogan to withdraw the lawsuit pending around the HBCUs, because the livelihood and the survival of HBCUs certainly will depend on this lawsuit, where the state of Maryland is refusing to come to the table and negotiate in good faith so that there will be no duplications of programs.
It's interesting. It's almost as if people forgot about that, Sharon, when they went to the polls with the, it's not broke, don't fix it mentality.
But, a lot of people just don't understand that lawsuit. And it's because probably it's complex. But the HBCUs have essentially won the case in court. Now the question becomes, what is the state going to be forced to do to address a history of denial of resources and duplication of degree programs that HBCUs try to offer as a way to make themselves distinguished in the field of higher education? So
HBCUs won the case. Now we've got to come up with a solution. And that's where Hogan's administration has not been very helpful.
And by that, I mean, yes, we won it in federal court, but right now we're going back to federal court. We're facing, I think, like December 11th, it's on the docket to go before the 4th Appellate Court to decide this case once again, because the state of Maryland is appealing.
Because of his appealing, yes.
Maryland doesn't want to work around the issue of not creating the duplication of programs. So for all of those people who sit in the state of Maryland as African Americans who support Hogan, they need now to put out an all-out effort to contact the governor, to have the governor withdraw that lawsuit, not endanger HBCUs, because if the court rules against us or in favor of us, and if it's appealed to the Supreme Court, given the Supreme Court, I maintain it would put in jeopardy every HBCU in this nation, because the Supreme Court will rule against us. So we need to understand, while we want it at the federal level, the danger that the 4 HBCUs in the state of Maryland face by going to court is extremely harmful. So it is now time for all Black folks. And I heard a young Black man, you said, was sitting there so impressed with Hogan at Hogan's rally. Well, where's Wendell to go to Hogan and get Hogan to withdraw this lawsuit? Because this lawsuit is harmful to all HBC, possibly harmful to every HBCU in this nation.
I'm so glad you called, Sharon. Thank you so much. We will definitely keep our eye on that. And we're calling on people to do what you have laid out on the table. We have Dwayne on the phone from Baltimore City. Dwayne, how are you?
Just happy to be here, Dr. K. Just happy to be here. All right. Okay, so I want to address the elephant in the room in reference to the white women that vote that support Trump and the Republicans. Okay, we gotta let's talk about the 800-pound gorilla in the room that we don't talk about enough.
Right.
Okay, and that 800-pound gorilla is it's tribalism. It's straight up tribalism. Okay, now white women are gonna vote. There are large blocks of white women. Okay, that are programmed to vote their tribe, okay? Their tribe ain't Black people. It's white people, okay? It's the same reason why you see, like in boxing, some average white guy who won a few, matches going up against the best boxer in the world, and he actually believe he has a chance. You see what I'm saying? It's because he's white. They trust him. That's part of their tribe, so they're going to vote their tribe, okay? So, the doctor that you have on, she said it quite plainly, and I've said it before on your show. It's a hearts and minds issue. It's a hearts and minds. Right. So if we want to get more of those white women in our corner, okay, then we have to become friends with them. We gotta embrace them and hug them and bring them along so that they'll have more of a connection to us, versus demonizing them and calling them names and all that stuff. If we want them to be in our party, to come into our tent, we have to invite them and we have to embrace them. Now, I know that's difficult for some of our people, because some of our people just want to stomp them out.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it hurts us. It hurts us. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So what we got to do is we got to expand our tent to include those conservative white women, especially those ones that are on the edge, but, hey, look, since I don't know any Black people, since all the Black people I meet treat me bad or say bad things about me, I'm just going to stay over here, in this comfortable land where it's comfortable. You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying. And I absolutely agree. Thank you so much, Dwayne. What is interesting, Professor Shipp, as I think about some of the things Dwayne is talking about, addressing that gorilla that's in the room, he called it tribalism. But the Atlantic, which has an article out about it now, says, no, let's not call it tribalism. Let's call it what it is. And it's simply racism. Like, let's stop giving it this other term and call it what it is. When you have people, and this is, what we know that happens, when you have, white people who so openly support a longtime Nazi in Illinois, and you have white people openly supporting over 1 million cast ballots for a neo-Confederate running for Senate in Virginia. Call it what it is.
But they would claim that, I didn't know about that. I didn't understand the significance of the Confederate flag and blah, blah, blah. That just also illustrates that white privilege that has permitted them to go through life not knowing any of these things and simply seeing this white person before them as a good guy because, and you can fill in the blanks, they served in the military, they teach Sunday school or whatever,
right?
And they ignore all the other manifestations of racism.
Absolutely. We have Mimi on the phone. Mimi, how are you? Thank you for calling back. I know your call got dropped earlier.
Thank you. Hi. I just want to introduce myself as an educator in the city, a new mother, and a Black American woman. And yesterday, when I heard the results, as I drove home from my grad classes at Notre Dame, my heart broke.
Really?
I lost my first teaching intervention position in Montgomery County because Hogan cut funding for it. And as somebody who is getting certification in services for children in our public schools, I am uniquely aware of how budget cuts affect education. And for all people, regardless of your color, who think that if it's not broke, don't fix it, think about your children and your grandchildren, your nieces and nephews who may have needed services or will need services. And if there is no money, they don't get those services, or those services will be so limited that their chances are also limited unless you can afford to get out there, get into the classroom, and really roll up your sleeves and help us teachers do this hard work. You can't complain about the no heat or air conditioning in the schools or the water not being on or any of the conditions if you don't vote to help the CEO get the money. And so at this, I'm not a huge fan of Santa Lisa, but at this moment, I really felt for her because if she's going to be on this fight and we didn't vote in her favor, I mean, and this is just for education, then what do we have to complain about? I didn't vote for Hogan. I just desperately thought we needed a change. We need somebody who's going to care. And so I ask all of these people who voted for Hogan, just think about the children in your family. That's all I have to say.
I appreciate you calling, Mimi. I really do appreciate that. So that's the other thing that's on the table, Professor Shipp. It seems like people go into these booths, and again, you don't have to, you'll tell us exactly what you did in the booths, but it's almost as if they forget the history of what a person who is currently holding that position has done. I like the way that Mimi laid it out. I like the way that Sharon laid it out. Like, you voted for someone. All of this is still on the table. Make them accountable to the decisions that they've already made. Make them begin to look at the issue from a different perspective, because there's still time for Hogan to lean in and make some changes when we talk about this lawsuit that's going back up with HBCUs.
But it's like we were saying about white women having blinders on sometimes. I think what we're finding is that some blacks have blinders on too. If their families are not directly affected by what's going on in the public schools, they may not make that an issue that comes to mind when they're thinking about voting for Hogan. Similarly, if they are not affected by public transportation in Baltimore, they might not think about the Red Line or any of those kinds of things that others would think about. So someone said to me last week that many people seem to be confusing access to Hogan, which he makes a point of, with actual policy that's in the interest of Black people. And I think that's something that we should actually consider.
This notion that we often say that all politics are local. Professor Shipp, I want to add to that, all issues start with me, because it seems like people only tend to care about issues when they're right up in the middle of them.
Right.
You tend to get concerned about the Red Line because it affects you getting to work. You get concerned about HBCU because that's where your heart is. You get concerned about the issues of people who are same-sex preference because that's somebody in your family. That's your son or daughter. That's your neighbor. Like, it seems like in this country, issues have to start with the individual, or people don't care because it's not on their radar at all.
So once you find that issue, though, you should then look beyond that issue to see if there's something else that you need to be thinking about, because it affects your neighbor or it affects someone in your congregation. So it might start with you becoming engaged in the whole question of who to vote for or what issues to vote for. It may start with you, but you shouldn't be so selfish that you don't think about others.
That's why I liked Barack Obama's campaign. Like, I just like the slogan that yes, we can, because we put people right in the middle of it.
Yes.
That, when he wins, all of us win. We have Keith on the phone from Northeast Baltimore. Keith, how are you?
Good afternoon, ma'am. I wanted to say that I was kind of insulted by the caller that stated that I call out to all black people who voted for Hogan.
Yes.
Let me tell you something. If you really want the truth of the matter, why don't we get to the Joan Carter Conway and the Legislative Black Caucus, who for the last over 10 years when she was in office and everything like that, was in charge of trying to get this whole black college thing together and never got it together. Never walked across the aisle, try to get everything straightened out. So you can lay it at the feet of Hogan all they want, but it's been going on probably since the Glenn Jennings administration. So as far as I'm concerned, I was offended by it because as far as I'm concerned, it's America. You can vote for who you want to. There's no taxes under Hogan so far, and that's good enough for me. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, we appreciate you. We have Angela on the phone from Owens Mills. Angela, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for calling.
The reason why I call is in regards to the white women and the way they vote. Yes. I just look at it like this, and it's a fact. White women enforce white privilege, and white men uphold white supremacy. So that's just the way it is. And I don't see any other way for black people, although we unite in the sense of the way we vote. I don't see us trying to bring them in. I just don't see bringing white women to our cause.
Right. So you don't think, I just want to be clear because, we often talk about, sisterhood and everyone coming to the table and how feminism has no color. But every time we go to the polls, Angela, it's exactly what we end up seeing. We saw it with Trump. We see it in the numbers with Abrams. We see it in the numbers with Gillum. We see it in the numbers with Beto O'Rourke. Like we're seeing the breakdown that we're sisters. We're all about being sisters on the outside. But once we get in that booth, the interests seem to directly split once we get in the booth.
But white women vote according to, they want a betterment for their children. They're worried about their future generations, just like we are. We want someone progressive that's going to look at the issues from both sides. But unfortunately, because they're not voting in that realm, we have to come up with some other solutions.
Right.
And one of those solutions is getting more young black men to vote. I mean, it's just, it just blows my mind at the number of black men that do not vote.
Right. But when they show
and they
up,
don't understand the reason why they need to vote until you break it down about the prison system, about the way the schools are, about the fact that you have a child in school. If you want your school to be better, you need to vote. And you have to break it down to them like that. And unfortunately, not enough people are listening to your show to get this knowledge that so many of your listeners have.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Angela. Professor Shipp, I wanted to just, I have a couple other calls. Anthony and Nathaniel, hold on one second. I'm coming to you. Professor Shipp, I don't want to let this moment of this conversation go by without mentioning the historic thing that happened in Florida with Amendment 4. People, if you're not familiar, Amendment 4 means that 1.4 million former felons who had been banned from voting for life will now be granted back their voting rights. This is historic. We know that here in Maryland, if you have a record, it does not prevent you from voting. But in Florida, that was massive what took place.
And that's going to be something to watch in terms of how that population uses that right to vote, whether they will be more likely to vote for more progressive candidates or in some cases Democratic candidates, because it's the Democrats who are probably pushing for that change in the law. So it's something that has conservatives and current office holders nervous, because this could be a powerful block if they choose to vote as a block. We had a similar situation here in Maryland when a couple of years ago the law changed so that former felons, ex-felons could vote here. And at the time, the number was about 40,000 in Maryland. One of the problems we've determined here, though, is that many of those ex-felons aren't aware of the change in law. So again, it comes down to many of us have to do a lot more to educate people about what their rights are, what's on the ballot, and the connection between their everyday lives and voting.
Now, I just want to give you some breaking news here, because it looks like Andrew Gillum might pull his concession. Because earlier this AM, the AP had DeSantis at 49.7% and Andrew Gillum at 49%. So the Gillum camp is now they're now contending that he conceded too early, and they are not finished as the votes continue to come in and the margin narrows.
Well, we should watch that, because that's what's happening in Georgia.
Yes.
And that's why Stacey Abrams refused to concede. There are a lot of absentee ballots to be counted, and then there was some regular voting that took place later or something. Anyway, there's still hope for her based on the outstanding ballots, and I think that's probably the case with Gillum.
And I'm excited, because if he gets down to 0.5%, it's going to push them into an automatic recount. So we're looking. So they're looking to do some interesting things, folks. It's not over yet. In fact, we might be having a different conversation tomorrow.
That's true, but let's hope it's not going to be another one of those hanging chads kind of thing that we had in Florida in 2000, was it?
Yeah.
When people were actually holding up ballots to see if they had been properly marked,
or
it's just
whether
crazy. You had punched out the little slot wholly there.
Yeah.
Let's hope we don't have another one of those.
I just remember when we had that whole thing with what is it? Not Bush v. Gore. Talking about getting the Supreme Court involved. Who is the president at this point? We have Anthony on the phone. Anthony's a new caller from Baltimore. Welcome to the family, Anthony. Anthony, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. The problem I'm having is the subject matter on your program. I think I mentioned to the station manager, I think, last week when you were making doing your collecting. But anyway, you never keep hearing about racism all the time. But we never talk about these sorry black politicians, Sandra Lisa, who wants to close the all-boys school for nothing. And do you know anything about that?
No, I don't. I'm listening though. Please give me the information. Give me the information. I can look into it. I've been so involved in the election.
The former city council person started a school. And you didn't know about it out on Winston Avenue. I forgot the name of it. But anyway, ever since, and this is for all boys.
Right.
And they're doing a wonderful job out there teaching these kids. And Mr. Sandra Lisa wants to come along and want to close the school.
So she wants to close this all-boys school.
The school board didn't go for it. And the second time, so they got another year, and then they want them to pay $300,000 where other schools aren't paying anything.
Tell me the name of the school, because we'll look into it today.
I don't know the name. I forgot the name of the school.
But it is here. It's an all-boys school.
I'm surprised that you're not doing this kind of research to find out what our black politicians are doing.
Now hold on, Anthony. Hold on, Anthony. Anthony, thank you so much. We do a ton of research on this show. Trust me when I tell you, and Professor Shipp, I know I'm going to wrap with you. Let me be clear, folks. Here on Today with Dr. K, we cannot research every single thing. But what we can do is we can partner with you. You help us with the research. You bring the stories to us, and we will then, in turn, do more work. We don't have our eyes and ears on everything. I mean, it's just Justina and I. Come on, folks. Professor Shipp. Thank you so much. I've been telling you, I can't be all things to all people, right? But,
no, you can use that excuse all you want.
Thank you so much, Anthony. We thank you, Professor Shipp, for joining us. I really appreciate your time. And when we come back, folks, we're going to bring two other people into the conversation for our parenting roundtable, but we will get them talking about the election as well. Nathaniel, Tavon, Jean, stay with us.
Hi, this is Mikkel Hunter of Mornings with Mikkel. Thank you for your kindness and support of your live local morning show, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 10, where you can count on us to prepare you for the start of your day. We appreciate you and your investment in the future of WEAA. But there's still time and still a need for your support. Please consider sending your tax-deductible donation to WEAA.org. Support your community radio station today.
If you're looking for the very best in conversation, great music, and of course, the very best slow jams in the city, make sure you join me, LaDon Black, nightly, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., Monday through Friday, right here on your community station, the station that's your source for cool jazz and so much more, WEAA 88.9 FM.
Public Radio, WEAA 88.9 FM.
Welcome back to Today with Dr. K. I'm Dr. K. Wise Whitehead. Folks, we're talking about the election and we're waiting for our parents to join us. We are going to do a little bit of our parenting roundtable, but I just want to kind of, as we're going deeper into this conversation, I want to be clear that this show belongs to all of us. This is not just my show and it's not just Justina's show. It belongs to all of us. So if you have information, if you give us the information, we will do the research. But please don't ever think that we know every single thing that's happening in this city, because we don't. We don't know all the tits and tittles of everything that's going on, but we're trying our best. But we do know that we have access to you. So we will look into what the last caller was talking about. Someone else followed up to give me the name of the school. It's the Baltimore Collegium School for Boys. We will follow up and see what is going on and why they are looking at, Dr. Santelisa's, according to the caller, is looking at closing the schools. We don't know. We'll find out. We'll get back to you. We're wrapping up our conversation on the election. We have Tavon from West Baltimore. Tavon, how are you?
How you doing, Dr. K?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Unfortunately, he didn't do enough research on his own. They know the name of the school.
I mean, yeah, I didn't want to even go there, but you're right. I'm sitting because I'm asking. Tell me, and we'll find out. But don't assume that we know everything. Come on.
Right. You know, ironically, you're talking about the fourth. What was it, the Amendment 4 in Florida?
Yes.
I was actually listening to a guy who was actually a convicted felon in Florida. And he gave a statistic. He actually went to law school, but he couldn't practice law after he got a degree because of his convicted felon. He said 75% of the people that fall under Amendment 4 are people that never even served time in prison.
Wow.
75% of the people. So he was saying, he asked a group of people that he was talking to, he said, well, how many of you ever let out some balloons out in the public in Florida? And he said pretty much everybody in the audience raised their hand. He said that's a third degree felony in Florida. You can lose your voting privileges because you release balloons in the air that have a certain amount of helium in it.
Right.
So that's how simple it was. It wasn't like you were dealing with a bunch of drug dealers or murderers and stuff like that. These are people doing everyday things that were convicted for, like, those types of things. But another thing is, on a different note, and this might rub some people the wrong way, but I kind of say it all the time.
Okay.
As far as how white women vote, that's why it's very bothersome to me when black men marry white women. I'm sorry to say it that way, because they don't have our interest in mind. They really don't. Because it's like a lady called Faraji show a couple months ago, and she was married to a black man, and she felt the need to say, well, why are black women trying to act like they're us getting weaves and stuff like that?
I heard that. Yes. The questioning.
And, we don't raise our children to be black. First and foremost, you can't raise your child to be black. There's nothing about you that's black. But their whole interest, they like you said, they always show at the polls which side they're on. They come down to the fence in between time, but we need to come to the realization that everybody that smiles in our face is not our friend, just like everybody that found that is not our enemy.
I completely agree. Thank you so much, Tavon. I have Dr. Regina Lewis on the phone here for our parenting roundtable. Folks, we're going to keep our conversation going about the election, but we want to talk about also how we talk to our children about this election. Dr. Lewis, how are you?
How are you out there in Baltimore?
Doing very well. Dr. Lewis is based in Colorado, although she is a native of Baltimore. Is that correct?
That's exactly right.
Yes. So she raised her son. He's now in the military. She was formerly on the Parenting Roundtable, and she'll be back with us on Wednesdays as much as she can join us. So, Dr. Lewis, we have been talking about the election. How would you suggest that parents talk to their children about the election? Like, how do you make it clear to them what's going on, the importance of it, and helping them to begin to understand that they have a civic duty to participate in this process?
Absolutely. Well, I start to reflect back as to what I did with my own son, and really just talking about choices and what does it mean when you have a choice? Because not always have we. So then I really do believe for children to be able to understand, we've got to be able to let them see what does it mean not to be able to do, not to be able to vote, as opposed to like not having choices.
Right.
And so you talk to them from that frame of reference, and then they are able to then make some decisions. And so we start thinking about maybe some things that might relate to them that they can understand that people are actually voting for. This is for the very young generation before they're able to vote.
Right.
But what happens is we run into a lot of young people who are old enough to vote, but decide not to vote. And so to be able to talk to them. Pardon me?
No, I'm agreeing with you. That's what concerns me when young people are of age and they feel that their vote doesn't matter, it doesn't count, it doesn't pertain to them.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what I tell them is, because I just actually ran into that. So we started to have a discussion about what does it mean to actually vote? Why is it do you think that your vote doesn't count? Where did you get this information from? What happens when a person does vote?
Right.
And so, through those conversations, I was able to take 10 individuals that were not going to vote to the voting polls. And now they see the results of it. But what would have happened if they felt like their vote didn't count? We have to continue to have the conversation.
And that's why we do the work that we do. We try to make it clear to them. Dr. Lewis, I'm going to go ahead and open up the phones. We have Nathaniel on the phone from Pikesville. Nathaniel, how are you?
Hey, Dr. K, I'm doing pretty good. So, I'm conservative. I lean very right.
Yes.
And I first like to congratulate you on your wins from yesterday, and congratulate you on your losses.
Yes, yeah, we lost quite a few yesterday.
But look, I will say I'm excited. Sincerely, I'm excited. I like the idea of a lot of women coming up and making these achievements. I'm having this discussion with my folks at work, and looking forward as we see a lot of women enter politics. I'm wondering. Are there situations where women can work together? And I'm just going off my experience, but for the last, 20-something years, every time I see a group of women together, there's a lot of infighting, a lot of cliques formed, a lot of, people, cattiness, and I'm wondering, is this something that we have to look forward to in the political realm as well? We're having this discussion. I'm trying to figure out, can women truly work together like that?
It's interesting. First, I appreciate your congratulations. And so, Dr. Lewis, I'm going to take a stab at it and then turn it to you. But I think what's interesting with the question that you're asking, we have to recognize that question is never asked of men. Men who have currently been the dominant majority in Congress, men who tend to hold up the process, the men who were able to slow down the work that Barack Obama was doing. We don't call it cattiness. They were being stubborn and dog-eared and remaining steadfast. With women, we use terms like cattiness, as if there's a lightness to it, as if women are not being serious in their resolve. So given the fact that we have seen men be very forceful in their positions and the ways in which they have slowed down progress, why don't we just assume that women will work to get the job done? I mean, Black women have historically been the ones coming in and cleaning up messes. We've seen that historically. Okay. Why not just trust that the 90 women, because it's not all women, it's just 90 women coming in. It was 84 before, we've just added a few more. Coming in could at least begin to push us in a different direction. If nothing else, it's adding more diverse voices to the table, right?
I like that. I'm just saying, I work with a lot of women at my job, and even there, I know it's a different type of profession, but even then, I get this sense that a lot of women don't like to get along with one another.
No, we can't say a lot. Maybe the women at your job, but remember, it was women who got together during the first wave of dealing with the women's movement. It was Black women who were fighting to end American enslavement, working together. It was white women working together, looking to join up with that movement. We've had the second wave of feminism dealing with reproductive rights, dealing with trying to close this wage pay gap. We have women who organized the Women's March that took place the day after Trump was inaugurated. I mean, women do work together. I mean, I'm on the executive council of the National Women's Studies Association, one of the largest organizations for women. We get together and we work together to get some changes happening. Okay. Thank you so much, Nathaniel. So, Dr. Lewis, why is it that people are kind of concerned? And this is how, because you raised your son, I'm raising sons, and I would argue that your work raising your son is not over. But
no, it is not.
But how do we explain to our sons that we are in an age now where women are going to hopefully see a lot of strides and advancement?
Well, first of all, I mean, everything that you listed is so important for people to hear. But in addition to that, start taking our sons to places where women are in the positions of power. Take them to the places where they are at the decision-making table. Take them to places where women do connect and they do create and they do respect one another. I mean, this is all the time. So, you know, the last caller that called in, I'm wondering, well, where are you at to see these types of women? You know, and because I know when I go to, say, like the Asala conference, I'm around a whole group of women, and that is never even part of the discussion.
Right. It really is about finding ways to support and to think about how we can, I don't know, add a little humanity, I think, to the conversation. Sometimes, you know, what we find missing when we see the way Congress works. We have Jean on the phone from Baltimore. Jean, how are you? Welcome to the conversation. Hello, Jean. Are you with us?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Hey.
Excuse me.
No problem.
Yes. Yes, Dr. K, thanks for having me. I wanted to comment on the remark that a caller made that the state legislators need to be held responsible for the HBCU case being in the state that it is in. I wanted to enlighten that caller and anyone who heard that Senator Joan Carter Conway was on the job working on behalf of the advancement of that issue. And as late as last Tuesday, October 30th, was a participant in the student-led rally on Morgan State University's campus to enhance the knowledge and participation to advance that case. Just what Sharon Blake was acknowledging earlier before that caller made.
I'm so glad.
So Senator Joan Carter Conway is still on the job, even though she's no longer an active senator, but she's still working towards that cause.
Thank you so much. And this is what I'm talking about. Gina, I appreciate you. Folks, these are the kind of conversations that you just need to have with us. Call us and tell us because we don't know. 410-319-8888. So Dr. Lewis, there was a video that went around, you know, just to kind of switch the topic a little bit from politics. And folks, you can still call if you want to share your feelings about what happened yesterday. But there was a video that was circulated where a teacher in Florida, if I'm not mistaken, it was in Florida, it was an African-American male teacher who was called the N-word by a white male student. And then the student threw the basketball at him. Now, the video didn't pick any of this up. The video picked up when the male Black teacher began to punch the white male student. And the student probably was either 9th or 10th grade, much smaller than the male teacher. And the teacher is clearly wailing on this student, and students are videotaping it. Well, they have done a GoFundMe account for this teacher. They raised over $90,000 to support this teacher with what is happening, because there's a sense that the teacher was in the wrong. Having raised your son in environments where I think that he has teachers that are not African-American, how would you respond knowing that a teacher has physically hit a child as a way of correcting the child, as a response to the child calling them the N-word in this sense and throwing a basketball at them?
Okay, so wow. You know, when I think about that, as you were speaking, my emotions were going back and forth over just the N word in the first place. And I understand that that's a word that really emotionally charges many individuals. But as teachers, then we are supposed to take moments such as that and make it into a teachable moment. That there are things that we need to do in that position of authority instead of going to a place of fighting. Because what message does that send to any of our kids? Many may not agree with me. If I had somebody to call me that name, yes, I would be emotionally charged. But I don't believe that going in and fighting is going to be the answer, because ultimately I'm going to be the one that's in trouble, just like that teacher was.
And that's very interesting because we saw that even with the election. I want to have you spin and talk about that as well, because we had Stacey Abrams. People use, racist, derogatory remarks and made comments about her. Andrew Gillum down in Florida, they made racist remarks about him. Even though Republican John Faso was in a district that is 84% white, well, they, caricatured Delgado, Democratic Antonio Delgado, who won, Harvard-educated African-American Rhodes Scholar, calling him a big city rapper, people using the N-word. That, that's one thing that's happening in the school, but it's also happening on the political spectrum too.
Absolutely it is. But I also believe that the more we react to it, the more people are going to use it. Mm-hmm. What I believe that when people do that, they want a reaction. And instead of reacting, we need to respond. I mean, as much as I want to beat somebody down, it's not going to help my situation. As a matter of fact, they're going to nod their head and say, see, I told you so.
Right.
So they're waiting for us to do that.
I like that.
But there needs to be, this is a systemic problem. And we can't address it by person, but we have to look at it as a system problem and be able to address it from there. What are we going to do when people use those types of words? When they do address us in such a derogatory way, when people are able to get away with it, there's not a beat down in the world that's going to stop people from doing it.
That's absolutely. I like what you just said. We need to, instead of reacting, we need to respond. We have Thomas on the phone from Chicago. Real Thomas, how are you, sir?
Hey, Dr. K, how are you?
I'm doing well. So you're in Chicago now.
Yes, I'm in Chicago today. I'll be back home the weekend.
Thank you for calling.
We talk about women doing this, women doing that. We have some great women that do great things. But we also have some great women that work against their own interests and their people, too.
Yes.
A couple of things come to mind with me. We had a chance to send the first black congressman or senator to represent us from the state of Maryland, which was Senator C. Anthony Muse. We had black women who voted against him.
Right.
We had black women who voted against Donna Edwards.
Yes.
Okay. Now, these women, these same black women decided that they want to take up haven with convicted felon Ed Norris, who's the former police commissioner, going up to New York. He's buying them lingerie or whatever.
Oh my. Okay.
These same black women who's in politics, who controls the politics for the city and the state of Maryland. Dr. K, how do we get them to have a come to Jesus meeting?
Okay. Now, I'm laughing, not because I'm discounting what you're saying, but I mean, that idea, Dr. Lewis, of trying to get women, black women in particular, who seem to be acting out of the best interest of our people. How do we get them to have a come to Jesus meeting? I mean, I don't know. If I knew that, I'd figure out how we can have a come to Jesus meeting. We should have had one for Clarence Thomas. Like, there's so many black folks, black women and black men, who seem to not act out of our best interests. And it doesn't seem like we can appeal to them.
Right, exactly. And I don't know if we have the answer, but I do know that I have what's called the BRIC approach, building rich and inclusive cultures knowledgeably, and really taking a moment to take one person at a time. Just like you build a house with bricks, it stands the test of time. You got to go from one sister to another sister. You can't grab a bunch of them all together, because somebody or many of them are going to fall through the cracks. But you got to sit there one-on-one and have those discussions. They have to be in a safe space to be able to express themselves, to get it all out. When I do my executive coaching, we call it Hapkido. just being able to keep talking it out until you're exhausted. Now you might be ready to listen. Because as we always say, and I'm sure you've heard the saying, when the student shows up, the teacher will appear. And until they're ready to listen, we can't get through to them.
No, we cannot. We can try, but it's not going to work. I want to play this clip because we're talking about, the election. And also how we deal with it as parents. I mean, I had, one son who was deeply upset last night, Dr. Lewis, about the loss of Ben Jealous. I had one son who was very excited about the continuation of Hogan. So we have heated conversations in our house. And I often tell them that I am not telling you what to believe. That is not my job. My job is to help you learn how to do the research so you can understand why you believe what you believe. That if you think Hogan was or is a good governor, what are you basing that on? If you're saying you want to put this person in office, what are you basing that on? Where are you getting your information from? Because your opinion is not enough for you to take into the voting booth with you. You need facts. So we have this clip I want to play of the women elections mashup. I want to play that, and then I want us to talk about it on the other side. It's 85-40.
My God! Tuesday brought celebrations across the U.S. for the record-breaking number of women who made history with their victories. Many are Democrats inspired to run in response to President Trump.
We sent a message that we want a better nation, that we demand a better nation.
We've spent 2 years waiting for someone to stand up to the partisanship and the division in Washington.
All our actions, no matter how small or how large, are powerful, worthwhile, and capable of lasting change.
Assalamu alaikum. The first women to wear a hijab to represent us in Congress.
I think representation is important. I think diversity is important. Every voice deserves a seat at the table.
Now you don't have to worry if you're going to call me Congressman or Congresswoman or Congress lady. Now, Senator will do.
Republican Congresswoman Kristi Noem will now answer to governor, becoming the first woman in South Dakota to do so.
Tuesday marked a turning point as the congressional representation of women got a little closer to matching the percentage of women in America.
Folks, this is what is happening around the country. Dr. Lewis, women are truly marching forward. When we talk about women ruling the world and rocking the vote, we got out in droves. I mean, but this is the change that I believe that we have been pushing for since the day after the inauguration of Donald Trump.
Absolutely. And Oprah Winfrey said, your time is up.
Yes.
Your time is up. And it is real. It has become really real. I was so excited when I listened to the elections. You walk into the building. It's kind of like when President Obama first was elected.
Yeah.
Remember the way that you felt.
Yes.
And now just think about it, how we feel as women on top of that.
Yeah. So my only regret was that I didn't run. I was like, man, I felt like I should have been running for something.
Yes,
what?
You should have ran. I would have voted for you.
What an exciting time to be there. Now, we do have somebody checking on Facebook Live. I want to put this down. Corey Thompson checked in and said, I understand the situation. And he's responding to the teacher. But you never know how many times he was called the N-word. You never know how many times the boy was taunting him. He probably did try to take it to his superiors and nothing was done. You never know what the teacher was going through at the same time. We understand that we're still all human beings, and for every action, there is a reaction. I mean, we don't know, Dr. Lewis, whether or not this student had been calling the teacher the N-word on a regular basis. And like, how much can you take?
That is very true, but you always have to look at the stakes. I mean, I understand that. That's one of those moves where you got to go find one of your buddies, around the corner. I'm just joking, but in reality, at the end of the day, that person may have sat down and said, the next time that this person says this, I don't care if I lose everything, but I'm fighting you not just for me, but for everybody who has had to deal with people like you. So that could have been the place. And he may have made a conscious decision to just do that.
That's interesting because as a parent, I mean, I think about the work that we do to help our children figure out what their line is in the sand. I mean, I often challenge my boys, what is that line in the sand for you? Like, what is that moment when you won't be pushed anymore? My husband said, how many times will you let him punch you in the face before you do something? Right. So, right. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Right. I mean, but you got to figure out at what point do you say, I'm not going to take this thing anymore. And I may have to fight. Like I actually might have to fight in this situation to get the abuse, the harassment, the taunting, the teasing to stop. I've tried to get some assistance and nobody's helping.
Well, if you think about it, like I'm working on a project right now, security in churches. And so, we've done a lot of interviews and we went and talked to the sheriff's department and the police department. And even they are saying, you run first, you hide as your second, and then fight as your third. Yeah. I think that no matter what, you get to a threshold knowing that when you get ready to fight, it may be your life, but that may be at the point where you are. And that may have been what that teacher was saying. You know what? I am at that point.
I think we would get one call in here. I have Lisa on the phone from Newcastle. Lisa, how are you?
Hi, good afternoon. I just wanted to add that really there's nothing that justifies that teacher striking the students. He should have saw that as a trap.
Right.
He's been at that place before with students. If he felt that he was at his breaking point, he shouldn't even be working with children. But there's nothing literally that justifies him hitting that child because it's a trap.
Yeah, it's a trap. And you notice all the video cameras cut on at the moment that he took that first swing. Thank you so much, Lisa from Newcastle. Dr. Regina Lewis from Colorado, thank you for joining us for the Parenting Roundtable. We look forward to continuing our discussion next Wednesday. Folks, please understand that Today with Dr. K is a production of WEAA. The show is produced by my award-winning producer, Justina Pollard. I had assistance with Ty Rice and Charlie and with Andre Melton with our intern Deja on the line with us today. And folks, the show is also produced in so many ways by you. You are a part of this team. If you get information, if you find out about a story, if you hear about some injustice, if you have a concern, bring it to our table and let us unpack it together. Stay tuned because up next is For the Culture with Faraji. Here on Today with Dr. K, your voice matters, your opinion matters. We tell stories that matter. If it has your ear, you better believe it has my attention. Right here on WEAA 88.9 FM. Absolutely the voice of the community. Make an appointment. Meet me back here tomorrow at 3 and let's talk all over again. Keep it here for a quick update from MTA.
And a good evening on the MARC system. Everything looking pretty good. Just one minor delay on the Penn train 430, coming out of Washington, heading to Baltimore's Penn Station. It's about 5 or 6 minutes late. Otherwise, no real delays. We've got no problems on the MTA commuter buses. The light rail link is on time, as is the Metro subway link. Local link bus diversions because of construction include the Lime Line diverted westbound at Eastern and Eden, the Lime Line southbound diverted at Caroline and Goff, and the Lime Line also diverted at Caroline and Cloverdale. Get mobile, go faster, transfer free with the CharmPass mobile transit fare app, your new way to pay. For more information, mta.maryland.gov/CharmPass. For the MTA Transit Team, I'm Ken Berger on 88.9 FM WEAA, the voice of the community.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sandy Mallory, the Public Service Director and host of Cool Vibes with the Neo Soul Cafe, heard during the middays, Monday through Friday. I want to take a moment to thank each of you for your assistance during the fall membership drive. Whether a large or small donation, each one stood for something. Your desire to keep WEAA available for everyone. There is still a need for your support. Please consider sending your tax-deductible donation to WEAA.org. Support your community radio station today.
Hey fam, this is Brother Mark. We're in a new season here at WEAA, and the Gospel Grace team and I are inviting you to tune in to our 5th year of the Instruments of Praise. I'm your host for 1 full hour of cool gospel grooves and instrumentals. So join us every Sunday afternoon from 5 to 6 p.m. right here on your source for cool jazz. We are 88.9 FM WEAA.
Celebrating 40 years of broadcasting. Morgan State University Public Radio. 88.9 WEAA FM and HD1. Baltimore.
I do this for my culture. Peace and welcome to For the Culture right here on your source for cool jazz and more. WEAA 88.9 FM and WEAA.org. Absolutely the voice of the community. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Tonight, we're going to talk about the election results, but I want to talk about history and diversity. And is this a sign of us coming into a culture war in a new America? We're going to have this conversation, folks. I'm going to break down to you my thoughts. I want to hear from you, and we're going to see if we meet somewhere in the middle. Stay riding with me. A whole bunch is coming up in this hour of For the Culture right here on your source for cool jazz and more. WEAA 88.9 FM and WEAA.org. Absolutely the voice of the community. Now let's check in with NPR.
In Washington, I'm Janine Herbst. Attorney General Jeff Sessions is out of a job under pressure from President Trump, who asked him to resign. Sessions had recused himself from overseeing Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation into Russia's interference in the 2016 elections, something that angered President Trump. NPR's Phil Ewing has more.
This was kind of the original sin for Jeff Sessions, although he was one of the president's earliest and most important supporters in Congress. In 2016, when he got his presidential campaign started, the president never forgave him for recusing himself from the Russia matter, which means, in the president's view, he hasn't been able to protect him from the special counsel, Robert Mueller.
Trump named Sessions' chief of staff, Matthew Whitaker, as acting attorney general. Now top Democrats are calling on Congress to protect both Mueller and the investigation. Today, House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi tweeted that House Speaker Paul Ryan needs to hold a vote on legislation to protect Mueller's ability to complete his probe. And the elections put the Democrats in control of the House, and speculation is now rising on who will be the next speaker. President Trump, who has sparred with former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi in the past, today sounded conciliatory.
I really think, and I really respected what Nancy said last night about bipartisanship and getting together and uniting. She used the word uniting, and she used the bipartisanship statement, which is so important because that's what we should be doing.
House Democrats will have the power to subpoena the president on everything from Russia's meddling in the elections to tax returns. But the president today threatened counter investigations in the Senate if that happens. In Montana, Democratic Senator Jon Tester has won a third term. As Yellowstone Public Radio's Jackie Yamanaka reports, this was a hard-fought win for Democrats, with President Trump making an unprecedented 4 campaign visits to the state.
Tester's victory came despite the president's popularity in Montana. Trump had tried to leverage that popularity in hopes of taking the seat away from Democrats. After a bruising campaign, Tester says now is the time for unity and healing.
And quite frankly, I hope the president comes back. Many times, I do, but not for political rallies. In all seriousness, not for political rallies, but to see the challenges we have in our state,
including helping veterans, fixing health care, and protecting public lands. Tester says everyone in Washington needs to put aside personal pettiness and work together. For NPR News, I'm Jackie Yamanaka in Great Falls, Montana.
Wall Street ended the day much higher today. The Dow gaining 545 points to end at 26,180. That's more than a 2% jump. The Nasdaq was up more than 2.5%, gaining 194 points to close at 75.
An accident still clearing West Belvedere Avenue at Park Heights, South Conkling at Bank Street, and also watch for flood damage. 450 remains shut down between Huntwood Drive and Rutland Road in Davidsonville. Fallsway near the JFX. Watch for the accident activity near Guilford Avenue, Allendale Street, south of Edmondson at West Franklin. There's more accident activity. Also in Baltimore, a gas line break on Route 40 between Hilton Street and Poplar Grove shut down. Police are on the scene there. So avoid that area. JFX northbound, heavy volume from Madison Street heading up through Falls Road, still a little sluggish between Cold Spring Lane and Northern Parkway, and heavy on the ramp to northbound 695. 695 inner loop, heavy volume from 95 through Security Boulevard, and again from Park Heights Avenue around towards Harford Road. Heavy volume on the outer loop from 95 to Route 1, and again from Providence Road to the JFX. For more traffic info, log on to sigalert.com. I'm Paula Young with your Baltimore area traffic.
88.9 FM reminds you that the views expressed on WEAA programs are those of participants and not necessarily those of Morgan State University, the staff, management, or underwriters of Baltimore's home for cool jazz. WEAA 88.9 FM.
I do this for my culture, 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 culture. I do this for my culture, culture, culture. Easy to get anywhere on the transcontinental overload. Just fly behind the wheel. How does it feel when there's no destination? That's too far. And somewhere on the way, you might find out who you are. Living in America. Station to station. Across the nation, got to have a celebration. Rock my soul. That bad. Many miles of railroad track. All night. Radio, keep on running through the rock and roll show. All night diners, keep you waking on black combat and a hard roll. You might have to walk all night, you might take them all night, but everybody's working overtime. Living in America.
Peace and welcome back to For the Culture right here on your source for cool jazz and more. WEAA 88.9 FM and WEAA.org. Absolutely the voice of the community. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for rocking and rolling with me tonight. Oh my goodness. You can't get it better than that right now. James Brown, Living in America, folks. That's right. This is what's happening right now. We are the day after an historic election. You're talking about an election that has gotten people looking, wondering, thinking, what's next? Let me tell you something, folks. I'm seeing something here in the signs on the wall right now. I'm seeing something. History, diversity. Something is happening in this country, folks. Let me just say that something is essentially happening in this country. And I'm saying that there is the emergence of a new America that's on the horizon right now. Now, we could go back and forth, and I want you to check in with me tonight. I want you to tell me what you're seeing, because I'm studying this thing, right? And I'm looking at where the elections have been, all of the elections across the country, not just here in Maryland. But I'm wondering, I'm looking, and I'm like, oh man, something is here. Now, I'm not a sociologist or one of those social scientists, you know. Maybe in my former life I was. But tonight, I'm really want us to key in on two elements. This history piece, because there was great history that was made yesterday. And then looking at diversity. That's the other thing. And I want to throw out there a term that was used in a column in the National Review. They used this term, culture war. And I was like, oh, my goodness. Now we might be on to something. Now we might be cooking with some grease right now. Because I essentially see this happening in the country right now. If we're looking at where we are, there is a new war that's brewing on the horizon. My producer, Alex, and I were having a very spirited conversation before the show tonight. And I was like, well, do you think something is coming up? Do you think there is some sort of war? And he's like, nah, man, I don't think it's a war. But but there's more of a change. And I said, I agree. And he said, yeah, but a revolution. And I said, oh. But we both agreed it's not the revolution with arms. It's not about guns. It's a revolution of ideas that is at war with one another. I want you to ride with me on this, folks. I want you to ride with me, and I want y'all to check in and tell me what your thoughts are on this, because I might be way off. I don't think I am, but I may be. But I know that there is a revolution of ideas. I've shared with someone recently, the greatest thing that you can have in this day and time outside of good guidance, right guidance, are great ideas. You want to have something, you really want to sustain yourself, and you want to try to build a future, create a legacy for yourself, have a good idea. Just one. I'm not, you ever meet those people? They always have like 1,000 ideas, right? They're like, oh, I got this great idea. And they come off like a used car salesman or a snake oil salesman, like, I got this great idea. No, I'm just saying, just get one good idea. Because the ideas that this world, this society needs right now, these are the things that are premium. They're like sitting on gold. That's why if you are ever inspired or if you're ever blessed with just one great idea, and I'm not talking about out of all 1,000, but you got that one idea that is at the root. At the root, you feel it fundamentally. You feel like, man, like this speaks volumes about who I am. This really could help people. This can improve this area or that area. This can make life better. That one idea. Yes, it's going to bring you money. Yes, it may even bring you some sort of notoriety. But at the root of it, that one idea will serve as a platform for you to do great things. We should never underestimate the power of inspiration, and certainly never underestimate the power of great ideas, because that's what's going on right now. We are in a space and time where great ideas are so necessary, because without innovation, without a great idea, this country, no group of people, none of us as individuals can even move forward. We are all like the embodiment of great ideas. Real talk. We are the embodiment of an idea, if you want to get real deep with it. So we're seeing something right now, culturally. I'm seeing something. Big shout out to all of those who were the big winners last night. Can we talk about that? Because I think we need to talk about these big winners, because I feel like part of their win is because they are the embodiment of something greater. Can we say that? I think I can say that. That's when we have an Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez out of New York, the youngest congresswoman elected, the youngest woman to be elected to Congress, a Latina sister. Great idea. It's a new idea, right? It's fresh. It's different. Ilhan Omar out of Minnesota, one of the first Muslim women elected to Congress. Great idea. When we even see a Jared Polis, who is the first openly gay governor, oh my gosh. Look at this. Something is happening. All of these things are happening. And it speaks volumes about where this country is potentially going. And then you have on the other side of it, you have a president who is also trying to hold up another idea. I'm telling you folks, revolution of ideas. And so there I see, at least I see the beginning signs. Again, I may be wrong, but I don't feel like I am, that there is a war or a revolution that's brewing. War not of guns and things like that, but a war in terms of ideas. You know, the book says that it will be principalities, right? You know, the forces of darkness and principalities and going back and forth with one another. There are these things. Why is it on such a high ground? It's not talking about the revolution of guns, but it's talking about that there is something that is in the air, that there's a level of consciousness that's going to emerge, that's going to change old fundamental ways. It's going to uproot old systems. These are ideas, these are embodiments of ideas that's going to revolutionize how we see the world, that we don't see the world as just one group of people, or that one group of people is greater than another, that it's uprooting the whole idea of a slave versus a master relationship. It's uprooting the whole idea of the have and the have-nots. It's uprooting the idea of living in one country, and your country is better than all the other countries, but yet we're supposed to be a part of a global community. The president said today at his press conference, he says, yes, I'm a nationalist, but then there are also people who are globalists. I want to do things to help all people on the earth. And he said this, but he said, but I think we need to take care of our things at home, take care of the country home first. And I get that. But does the work of who you are and what you represent take precedence over someone else's needs and interests? That's the space that we're in right now. We got to ask those questions. Like, is what I want greater and more important than what someone else wants? No, we have to learn in this new space, this new time, how to work together to compromise and to essentially get some level of movement for both sets of interests. New ideas, folks. That's what I'm talking about. New ideas here. So tonight I want to talk about this. I'm asking the question about what we're seeing with this history and diversity in the election. Is this politics as usual, or are we seeing the beginning signs of a new revolution, a cultural revolution here in this country, politically, socially, economically? I'm going to go down the list in a few moments. We'll go down the list of the candidates who have challenged the American system and have won. But will their victory become diminished because they will be a part of a system that has been operating for so long along the same way for so many years? Or will their new emergence into that system invigorate? It will bring some new life into the system and essentially evolve the system into an idea whose time has truly come. We're going to have that conversation. So stay riding with me. We got a whole lot to get to in this first hour. Hit me up with your thoughts. 410-319-8888. 410-319-8888. You tune into For the Culture right here on your source for cool jazz and more. WEAA 88.9 FM. and WEAA.org. Absolutely the voice of the community, and absolutely a great idea. We'll be right back.
Easy to get anywhere. On the transcontinental overload, just fly behind the wheel. How does it feel when there's no destination? That's too far. And somewhere on the way, you might find out who you are. Living in America. Station to station. Living in America. Hand in hand across the nation. Living in America. Got to have a celebration. Rock my soul. That bang, many miles of real track, all night radio, keep on running through, go rock and roll soul, all night dining, keep you awake on black combat and a hard roll. You might have to walk all night, you might take a long night, but everybody's working overtime. Living in America. Station to station. Living in America. Hand in hand across the nation. Living in America. Got to have a celebration. I live in America. Living in America. Wait a minute. You may not be looking for the promised land.
All right, peace and welcome back to For the Culture right here on your source for cool jazz and more, WEAA 88.9 FM and WEAA.org. Absolutely the voice of the community. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for checking in and riding with me, folks. We're talking about the election, history, and diversity. I'm really seeing, folks, that there is something brewing on the horizon in terms of cultural revolution. There is a revolution of ideas that I think that's happening right now, and it's creating a clash. There are two Americas right now. We're living in two Americas, actually probably a couple of them different Americas. But something is happening. If you look at who are the big winners tonight from last night's election, it's a diverse group, mostly women. But you have a Latino woman, you have a Muslim woman, you have a woman of from Native American ancestry. I mean, you got a lot of different views, a lot of different people, essentially the embodiment of a lot of different ideas. All right, let's go to the phone line, see what you got to say. 410-319-8888, 410-319-8888. Let's kick it off. Linda, talk to me. What's your take?
Evening. I just want to say, get down, get down.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, look, and let me tell you something. Baby, there's a revolution. There's restoration, restitution. Because, baby, look, Sam Cooke told us years ago that change was going to come.
Yeah.
Oops, there it is. Hey, look, let me tell you something. I told Dr. K on the airwaves the other day about the shifting that was taking place. Almighty God, baby, it's justice against injustice.
That's the big idea for you. That's what you're saying.
Everything that need to be made right, baby, is taking place.
Gotcha.
Be
I hear you.
still and know that I am God. Baby, this is it. Rise up, everybody. We're the real soldiers, the warriors. Please rise up.
I hear that, Miss Linda. Thank you so much. I love you too, Miss Linda. Thank you so much for checking in. Let's go to John. John, what's your take?
I think you're on to something. I'm 67. I've been a rebel and a part of the resistance since I was 14. Stokely Carmichael came to my high school and made me realize that even though I thought I was living in a free country and being an American was enough, made me realize that no, I was having a little game played on me that I wasn't even aware of. So I've been woke a long time. And I want to thank Black women for being as strong as they have been and hope that they continue to be.
Yeah.
Because they've provided some, I talk about standing in the gap. Oh man, they have provided us with some inspiration and with some drive and some courage. And I'll tell you, things will never go back to the way they once were.
Hey, check this out, John. I'm riding with you all the way on that one. I don't feel like, people are saying, that nothing is going to change. I think we are at the beginning, at least on this level politically, where change is going to happen. Change is going to happen. It's going to happen. Now, some people, look, even, some folks are like, man, you crazy. No, I don't see change is going to happen. No, change is going to happen because you know why? The dissatisfaction level right now among the constituency in this country is at a boiling point. We want to see something different.
Yes, we must see something different.
Yeah.
We've had as you said, we've had a either or situation for a long time. Black and white. That's been the battle. But this country is so much more diverse than that. Everyone has a stake in the game. And we cannot go back to nationalism. It's just not going to work. We can't go back to 1950. I lived during that time. We don't want to go back to the 1950s. That was nationalism. No, we are global, and that's it. You can't be a nationalist and deal with things like global warming. You have to deal with things on a much bigger scale. And I think young people, we're becoming more literate. People are reading.
Yeah.
People in my generation, there were a lot, and there still are, a lot of what I call people function, but they don't read well and they don't comprehend well. And that's starting to change. That is the key.
That is absolutely key. Hey, John, I thank you so much for riding with me and making me feel like I'm not crazy. John from Bowie checking in. Thank you so much, John. Look, we got to take a quick pause when we come back. I'm going to get to my first-time callers tonight. D, Larry, I see Z from Northeast Baltimore, Nathaniel from Pikesville, Mike from Ellicott City. Look, I know something is happening, folks. I know it. There is a cultural revolution. There is a revolution of ideas that's taking place in this country, and it's creating a cultural shift. I'm telling you, wait till you hear the type of candidates that won last night. I'm just not talking about some city council position. They won House seats. House seats. I think something is happening. Stay riding with me. And I think you definitely see something too. Tell me what your thoughts are. 410-319-8888, 410-319-8888. And make sure you post your comments on my Facebook page at Faraji Muhammad, Farajii, so you can be a part of the conversation. Stay tuned. Whole lot coming up in the next 30 of For the Culture right here on your source for cool jazz and more, WEAA.
If you're looking for the very best in conversation, great music, and of course, the very best slow jams in the city, make sure you join me, LaDon Black, nightly, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., Monday through Friday, right here on your community station, the station that's your source for cool jazz and so much more, WEAA 88.9 FM.
Support for WEAA is provided by New Psalmist Baptist Church, inviting you to Fresh Fire 4, Tuesday, November 27th through Thursday, the 29th. Guest preachers include Dr. Charles Booth, Bishop Marvin Sapp.
What I'm going to do is so ridiculous. I want you to tell everybody, Mama, I don't know why he did it, but I'm so glad he did.
Bishop Paul Morton.
Go into the enemy's camp, and you got to take back everything that the devil has taken away.
More info available at newpsalmist.org. Bishop Walter Thomas, Sr., Pastor. And members like you. Thank you.
Your source for cool jazz and more. WEAA 88.9 FM, the voice of the community.
I do this for my culture, 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 I do this for my culture, culture, culture. I do this for my culture.
Peace and welcome back to For the Culture right here on your source for cool jazz and more. WEAA 88.9 FM and WEAA.org. Absolutely the voice of the community. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for checking in and riding with me. Folks, we're talking about history. We're talking about diversity. But we're also talking about how there is a growing change of ideas happening. As we saw in last night's election, this is a pivotal election. I'm not talking Dems and Republicans. No, I think this is pivotal because of the folks that have been elected, the type of folks that have been elected, what they stand for, but more importantly, the number of people that have been elected. The mandate is that something that the constituency wants a change. And that's what I'm seeing. And I'm seeing that there is potentially a revolution of ideas that's taking place in this country that's challenging what we're currently seeing, coming even from President Trump himself, all the way down to what we have been accustomed to, what we have been conditioned with, and certainly what we have grown up in. The idea of white supremacy is falling. The idea of the haves and have-nots is diminishing. The idea of slave-master relationship is slowly dying. And I see this happening. Now, you might say, well, I don't see that, Faraj. Well, let me just say it with you that if you look at how these candidates got to the position that they got to, and then you look at their support, you look at the states that they represent, Colorado is considered to be one of the most progressive states in the country. And last night, it made a major exclamation point because it voted that state voted for their first openly gay governor, in Mr. Jared Polis. Major. Now, this is the same state that also had legalized marijuana before the rest of the country even really started having this conversation. Something is happening. Some people just chalk it up as being progressive versus conservative, but I want to take it out of the realm of just politics. I mean, certainly we're talking about the election, but I think there's something much deeper that's happening here. What are your thoughts? 410-319-8888. Let's go to D, first-time caller out of West Baltimore. D, what's your take on this?
Well, hello. How are you?
I'm good, D. How are you?
Okay, so before I do my comment, I have to say I never thought that I would like talk radio. I mean, I never listened to talk radio. I thought it was an older thing. And I mean, even though I'm in my 40s, I just knew, like, no, I can't do talk radio until I listen to yours. And brother, let me tell you, you are my ride home.
Oh, for goodness. Wow, thank you for first of all, you act like you like super old, D. You're 40?
Yeah, right, but I couldn't do talk radio. It just remind me of my grandmother. Oh. I love it now. I have to say that.
Thank you.
Okay, so getting to my comment.
Yeah.
I hear the words revolution and I hear the words, a war. It's an awakening. This is what I'm seeing.
Okay.
My grandmother taught me about this a long time ago. She was whatever, those grandmas, they got that gift.
Yeah.
But it is, it's an awakening of minds that was mad. Mad gets stuff done. When you get mad, that's when stuff gets done. And I think a lot of people, it feels like enough is enough with the elitists. They see beyond the isms. They see beyond those lines that they put up to try to divide us. And once you see, you can't go back in the box. Like it is, ignorance is not always bliss. But sometimes when you see, you may want to be a little bliss.
Right.
But the thing is, once you see that it is all a systematic setup and that it's to divide us, that's when madness comes in and then stuff get done. Those two beautiful Native American sisters, those Muslim sisters, those brothers, they got mad. They got mad. They got tired of the tiki torches. They got tired of the rallies.
Right.
They got tired of it. And they started to see how it was affecting our elders because they lived it and they thought that they never had to go through this again.
Yeah.
And they got tired of it. And they wanted to make a change. And these young people, like I'm from Generation X. Like I was 90s. We wasn't political. I mean, please. But these kids these days, let me tell you, baby, these kids blow my mind. I just hug and kiss them every time. They are so wise beyond their years. I believe a lot of ancestors have come back into their spirit.
Ooh.
And they don't believe, they don't know that they have been here before, but they know that when they see something that ain't right,
yes,
they're
ma'am.
going to speak up. And I'm from West Baltimore, born and raised, went to Morgan. So I know.
Nice.
I see these, I see these babies. I see them. And they are mad. And mad gets stuff done. It really does. So what is going on is an awakening. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of, still sleep people. There's some people that don't want to wake up. They love their bliss. Their ignorance is their bliss and they love it. They spin in it. They swoon in it. But then there are so many others that are awakening and it's like seeing the world through different eyes and you can't go back. So it is a shift. It's a shift in energy. It's a shift in the moons and the planets. And people don't believe in it. I do. But there's a shift and that energy is coming through and getting stuff done. People getting tired of this bull crap. They getting tired of it.
You know what, D? You touching on, I'm taking notes as you're speaking and you're touching on, no, real talk. And you're touching on so many layers right now. And I truly, truly have to say, I agree with you. I feel like I love how you say it in an awakening of minds. And I feel like that may be what I'm feeling because it is an energy. There is a real palpable energy that we can all feel. I don't know about you last night, but I felt something was different. I felt in the air. I was like, man, and as much as people
still in one of these retrogrades, we're still constantly in a retrograde. So there's some shifting going on. But
retrograde, come on, D.
If you read Octavia Butler, she had a book that spoke of this. People don't know that our ancestors wrote this stuff and it's in a book. Read it. She is the first scientific, sci-fi writer, Octavia Butler, and she has a book that speaks of this, of what's going on right now. And people kind of like shrugged it off because it's a sci-fi, but you have to read Octavia Butler's book. She talks about this awakening of minds of collectiveness, and they got stuff done because they got tired of being put in their box of what should and shouldn't be. These isms got to go, and people love and relish in their isms. But you know what? This is what divides us. And once we get that down, they get scared. Look at him. I mean, I'm not trying to take up your time, but look at the president. Now he's trying to be all soft. He's trying to, backpedal and say, oh, we need to work together. He don't know that Auntie Maxine got the power to open up the door.
Right.
That's the problem. Y'all got to see, he's scared because he can't control anymore. We got some things that we can go into his little closet and pull out more wives or whatever he got, and we can look at his finances.
So he's scared. So now he's humbling himself as much as he possibly can because he has nothing of that in his spirit. And now he's trying to be bipartisan. And this is what scares me. Democrats are going to fall for it and say, oh, we need to work together. No, baby. We need to go hard like they went hard on us.
There it is.
And this is what in this shift and this change of these new beautiful souls that's going in there and going to make stuff done. It's going to happen.
I hear
But
that.
we can't stop it. We can't stop it.
We cannot stop it. Hey, D, thank you so much for checking in, being our first-time caller. D, this better not be the last time I hear from you. This better not be the last time that I hear from you. D from West Baltimore checking in. D, I think, kicks it off with a different spirit, which I really like, because, again, I think she's speaking to something, and it speaks volumes about where we are in this country. Mitchell checked in on our Facebook page and said, I think the diversity of the positions that won last night is a tremendous step for our country, but only time will tell if these victories will create even bigger shifts in the paradigm. Absolutely. I agree with that. The quote unquote game is still run by the same corporate funded politicians as before. I just hope these new players stay true to their causes and listen to the American people and do not get caught up in the corruption of the system. I have a good feeling about them, though. Mitchell, thank you so much for sharing that. And I agree with you. If they stay true to the causes, then we may actually get some work done, like Dee said. Renee checked in on our Facebook page and said, I am encouraged by the election results overall. However, I am concerned that, one, conservative white women continue to support white supremacy, as evidenced by Texas, Florida, and Georgia election results. And two, reports of disenfranchisement during this election and the Georgia Secretary of State refusing to recuse himself to preserve fairness. Three, people may not understand what the amendments mean prior to voting on them. Four, the number of my fellow physician colleagues who are not voting. But overall, I am hopeful. And I hope this motivates the people to stay proactive and involved in their communities and eliciting change. Renee, I couldn't have said it better myself. Let's go back to the phone lines and what you folks got to say. Let's go to Larry, first-time caller out of Bethesda. Larry, what's your take on this? Is there this feeling like there is this awakening that's happening right now? Are we in this age right now that there's a little bit of a butting of heads between two sets of cultures and two ideas?
Yeah, I think there is. I think that we don't give much attention to what the millennial age people are doing and saying, but there's a lot more of what they're doing and saying going on out there and influencing the old people as well.
Absolutely.
And so it's kind of like you can educate some of the old dogs out here, and we can bring some point of view and some perspective to the young folks as well. And e pluribus unum is the motto. It's the out of many, one. Diversity is the absolute motto of this country. E pluribus unum. And so, when you take a guy like Trump and what they're doing with this nationalism business and trying to go back and have this retrograde operation where there is what they used to call a rear guard action, trying to claw back, get everybody back into this plantation pre-Civil War mode, it's not going to work. The genie is out of the bottle.
That is
now,
it.
If you want to do something for an old white guy like me, the best thing you can do is hire a young woman of color and put her in politics.
Wow.
Because that's how you're going to save America, is listen to the young people and get with the program. We are in the last great war. We're in the war for the survival of the human species. 10 years ago, they said, we got 500 years before it's all going to hit the fan. And then 7 years ago, they said, we got 250 years. Then it was 120 years. Then it was 80 years. Now it looks like kids born today won't have a normal life expectancy. So, yeah, we got to get woke and stay woke. And the young folks got to talk to the old folks, and everybody's got to have a counterbalance to this nationalism and to this nonsensical, pointy-headed wrong-headed way of trying to maintain power. And the answer is to take the young folks and empower them. They got the energy. Let's back them up. Let's give them the support. And when you got, like, I appreciate the reason I dialed the phone tonight, because you're talking about a revolution of ideas and good ideas and big ideas.
Yep.
Well, right now the president has got control of the pulpit there in Washington, in the White House.
Yeah.
But we got the governors coming up and the attorney generals, the Democratic attorney generals of this country, and we got the mayors of the cities that 80% or 88% of the population of this country lives in the cities. And so, you know, and in the meantime, the folks in the cities need to take care of some of the concerns of the folks out in the rural areas.
You're right. Hey, Larry, I got to let you go. But, Larry, I appreciate you so much for checking in and being another one of our fantastic first-time callers. And I think what you're saying is so poignant about where we are in this country. An old white man, as he said, the best thing you could do is put a woman of color in power. Man, oh, man, folks, I'm telling you, something is happening. Z, Northeast Baltimore, talk to me. What's your take? Hey, Z?
With all we callers that just spoke.
Yes, ma'am.
There is a revolution, as Gil Scott predicted. The revolution will not be televised.
It really won't be, Z. I'm sorry. It's
here.
This is the type of here's the type, and I'm gonna let you finish your thoughts, Z. But I just want to, and I'm so happy because that's exactly what I was thinking last night as I was getting, you know, as you get all of these, the results coming in. I said the revolution is not going to be televised because you notice that the greatest changes never happen out in very bold, bright, big colors. Now, we got some very, very, you know, promising individuals who are coming into government from this election, right? And across the country. And but at the end of the day, when you talk about leadership that moves people, right? Leadership that moves people is not big and bombastic and colorful. It's very, very small in the dark type of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And if you study leadership, and I'm saying from biblical figures to political figures to social, civil rights leaders and all of that, their greatest impact was not done when they were standing in front of podiums and microphones. It was what they did each and every day. And they gave a sense of hope to the everyday man and woman. And that's what I'm seeing right now. I'm sorry, Z, but you are so right on that. I was thinking the exact same thing last night.
That's okay. I'm glad that, see, we all are on the same page because people are just tired of the okie doke. We're tired of the okie doke. And it's especially Black women. We have sat by and watched this system lynch our men, put our children and our men on drugs, beat them down, to nothing, okay?
Yeah.
We're tired.
Yeah.
So we're standing up now and we're rising, and we're just not going to take it anymore. We're not. It's over. It's over, you know?
And I'm
it's fun. The white supremacy, and I'm not prejudiced. My mother is from Ghana. My father was a Marine, and they never taught me any prejudice.
Right.
But to see what has gone on in this country, and we have put up with it too long, actually.
Yeah.
And we have to take a stand now. So all of your callers that have called in before me, you know, we're all on the same vein and wire because we've all sat by and watched this.
And the very survival of the country is based upon the moments like this.
That's it. That's it.
The very
and
essence
I love
of
your
the country.
show. I love it.
I appreciate it, Z.
I've been listening every day.
Well, I truly
about
appreciate
the last 3 months, and I'm getting educated. So I got a chance to call in tonight.
Hey, I'm so happy that you did, Z, from Northeast Baltimore. Thank you so much for checking in. You're absolutely right. Yeah, absolutely. Now, here's the thing, folks. I want to even open up the conversation. I want to open up the conversation for those individuals who don't see what I'm seeing. Okay? If you're just not seeing, if you just feel like this is just another election, and you're just like, oh, okay, it's just the Democrats. They got power over the House. What are you looking at? I want you to call up. I really do. I really don't. And this is not to put you on blast or anything like that, but I think we should have an understanding, because my callers right now, we gone. We out there now. We feeling the energy. We feeling the vibe. But even if you're not feeling the vibe right now and you're just saying, hey, man, I just don't get it. I don't know what you're feeling. I'm just not feeling that. I just see another election with somewhat of a low turnout. I knew so-and-so was going to get into office. Share your thoughts. 410-319-8888. Let's go to Nathaniel, Pikesville. Let's talk to me, Nathaniel.
Raji, and oh boy, I'm glad you took my call, man. Because look, man.
Come on.
I mean, I'm glad the winners won. Nobody wants to be a loser.
Right.
I can feel the winners on that.
Gotcha.
But man, we got a bunch of bad ideas yesterday, man.
So we got a bunch of bad ideas.
Bunch of bad ideas. Man.
Okay. Now you got to go a little deeper with me on that, Nathaniel.
Now, I don't see any one election result that would have caused our enemies, both foreign and domestic, to be trembling in their boots. In fact, I would go so far as to say is that our enemies, both foreign and domestic, are salivating at the idea that we are in such disarray. When you think about what Obama did.
Yeah.
Obama, like your guest speaker said yesterday, he deported thousands of illegal immigrants, during his term, right?
Mm-hmm.
Both terms. If you had a person, let's just say, whether this person be a female or another marginalized individual, if you had this person, deport even just a small fraction of what Obama did, think of the America we'd be living in. Think of that. It's just, if you wouldn't run this like you run your house. You wouldn't run the country like you run your house. You would make sure that there's structure, that there's consistency. You wouldn't have your children, changing the environment in your home and pulling you one direction one way and another direction the other way. You'd be reliving childhood all over again.
Mm-hmm.
You need to have some type of leadership, strong leadership, that's not only going to keep things in check and in order. And I'm not talking about the white supremacy thing. I'm talking about keeping things in order.
Okay.
And keeping your enemies in their place. Keeping
so seeing these this emergence of new congresspersons, congresswomen, and seeing the emergence of these new elected officials. You're saying that this won't put fear in the hearts of our enemies, both foreign and domestic.
It won't, and history told us. I mean, the more progressive that we've become as a country, the more other countries and other groups of individuals have wanted to harm us. Think about it.
Well, maybe, but let's be honest though. The way that we have been already in this country, other countries have wanted to harm us.
To this extent, Faraji. I mean, come on, you heard it.
Hey, look, September 11th happened under George Bush's tenure.
Yeah, but
there weren't any bombings, so there wasn't any type of domestic or foreign. There wasn't any terrorism that was done on American soil under Obama. And I'm saying that just to say, I'm more concerned that might happen under the President Trump era. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not sure. I'm personally not sure if we need to have our quote unquote enemies trembling right now, because our enemies are undergoing changes as well. And I'm saying, when I say the big idea, this is not just in America. People are tired across the board, whether you're talking Palestine, you're talking in Egypt, you're talking in France and in Germany. People are just tired of this old way of governance, I think.
Well, I mean, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
But there was a time when, with all respect, Minister Farrakhan didn't lead a chant. I mean, listen, these stuff was being reported. He didn't lead a chant saying death to America. And there was a time where, you know, our enemies weren't, you know, jumping at the opportunity to infiltrate and just turn our lives upside down. I mean, it's one thing to have to worry about what we're dealing with here domestically.
Yeah.
But now we have a whole nother realm, you know, of obstacles.
But what about and I'm gonna let you go, Nathaniel. But here's my final question about this. Hold on, is in terms of how we deal with foreign affairs, right? There's a certain level of humanity that has to be a part of those conversations, and unfortunately, our country has a history of going into other countries, dealing with other people as if we own the place. And that's been a part of the reason why there has been so much hatred toward America and our policies, because we bogart. We operate from a bully pulpit on a global stage. We do that at the UN. We have done that at the GS summits. We have done that everywhere that countries are gathered. We are always putting out America is first, more so than America is a partner. America is a part of the global community. That's the big thing. That is the big thing that I'm not seeing happening right here, folks. All right, let's go back to the line. Let's go to Mike out of Ellicott City really quickly. Mike, what's your take on this? Am I wrong on this?
Oh, don't give me the quickly, because I got a whole bunch for you, Ferrari.
Come on, all right. So I'm gonna let you take us up. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead, jump right into it, bro.
You asked for. I'm gonna be that caller, so I know I'm gonna get it. But you know, America first. The reason I think we America first is because we put the most in, and I think that's what Trump was saying when people when he was like the UN needs.
We put the most in, or what?
Everything, all of the UN, protecting the world, giving to other countries, helping other countries out, doing this and doing that. I mean, you can talk about the negative that we do when we go in and this, that, and the third to another country, but at the same token, we send billions upon billions of dollars to other countries to help them out, and you know, to try to prop them up and
let's put a condition on that though, Mike. We send billions of dollars for other countries to fit our interest in political agenda. It's not out of some self-altruism. It's not some altruistic, hey, guys, you need some help? Hey, guys. We just throw some money at them. We send billions of dollars to Israel. We send billions of dollars to other places, right?
Yes.
Because of our interests, military interests, political interests, economic interests. And those aren't really sending money to these countries it's not out of a place that we want to have a big heart. That's an investment.
I'm with you 100% on that.
Okay.
But at the same token,
yeah.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure, go ahead.
If you were in the position of sitting on billions of dollars, and you were in the position of, okay, I'm gonna spend my money on this, you're not gonna spend your money and then have people go the totally opposite direction and then come at you. Of course, you're gonna spend your money and say, okay, you got to have democracy. You got to have the same type of interest that we have. This, that, and the third.
Sure.
So I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But you know, we got to start looking at things from, for lack of better words, we got to start looking at things from a poor man's mentality and start looking at it from, you know what I'm saying, a rich man's mentality.
Quick question: do you feel like yesterday's elections, last night's elections, was that a sign of something new, a different idea coming to fruition?
No, sir. I think let me tell you why.
Okay.
Because you still got the 1%, you still got the poor,
right,
and then you got the middle class.
Yeah.
With all of these elections that the House got with all of these different people.
Yeah.
Outside of supporting the Democratic main base agendas.
Yeah.
All of these other groups of people gonna have their own interests that they're trying to help. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that right there. I mean, you and I both know, Mike, that at the end of the day, that's going to take some time, and that's what when Mitchell made that point it's going to take some time. It took us time to get to this place that we're in.
Yeah.
So it's going to take some time to shift the paradigm to get out of this space, right?
Well, we're gonna see. We're gonna see. And the last thing before I go, because I had a whole bunch for you, but I know you're about to take a break.
Yeah.
But Trump only lost control of the House. Obama lost control of the House and the Senate.
All right.
Lost more seats. Clinton
Yep.
lost more seats and
Yep.
lost the House and the Senate. Bush lost the House and the Senate.
Well, we'll say, hey, Mike, and I got you. We were going to address that when we come back, but I got to let you go. Mike from Ellicott City.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sandy Mallory, the Public Service Director and host of Cool Vibes with the Neo Soul Cafe, heard during the middays, Monday through Friday. I want to take a moment to thank each of you for your assistance during the fall membership drive. Whether a large or small donation, each one stood for something. Your desire to keep WEAA available for everyone. There is still a need for your support. Please consider sending your tax-deductible donation to WEAA.org. Support your community radio station today.
Our world is more connected than ever. Technology has brought us closer together and helped move us further apart. So who you choose to listen to matters. I'm Joshua Johnson, the host of 1A. There's more than just knowing what everybody's talking about. You need to really understand it too. Get involved. Speak freely on 1A from WAMU and NPR. Weekdays from 10 a.m. to noon here on WEAA 88.9 FM.
Celebrating 40 years of broadcasting, Morgan State University Public Radio, 88.9 WEAA FM and HD1, Baltimore.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Janine Herbst. Attorney General Jeff Sessions is resigning under pressure from President Trump. And as NPR's Tamara Keith reports, Trump says he'll replace Sessions with his own chief of staff, Matthew Whitaker, on an acting basis.
President Trump never forgave Attorney General Sessions for recusing himself from the Russia investigation, publicly berating him in interviews and tweets. The first line of Sessions' resignation letter makes it clear he isn't leaving by choice. At your request, I am submitting my resignation, he writes. One very big question this opens up is what will happen to the special counsel investigation. Whitaker, who has been a critic, will oversee it now. The announcement comes just hours after President Trump was dealt a defeat, with Democrats taking control of the House and promising to investigate his administration. Though there will be more Republicans in the Senate in the new year, which could make it easier for Trump to get a replacement confirmed. Tamara Keith, NPR News, the White House.
Two of Georgia's biggest counties are still tabulating thousands of votes as Democrat Stacey Abrams hopes to close the gap in a race for the governor against Republican Brian Kemp. That race is still undecided. Gwinnett County officials say there they have nearly 20,000 absentee ballots and around 2,000 provisional ballots that are being counted. Meanwhile, the Democratic candidate in Georgia's 6th congressional district has declared victory, but the Republican incumbent in the race says not so fast. From member station WABE in Atlanta, Susanna Capelouto has more.
Right now, Democrat Lucy McBath holds just above 50% of the vote in the suburban Atlanta district over incumbent Republican Karen Handel. In a statement, McBath says she looks forward to representing the people of the 6th. But Handel is not conceding. She says she is weighing all the data and a recount is possible. Handel, the Republican, won the seat just last year in a special election to fill the seat of Tom Price, who joined the Trump administration. McBath says she decided to run for office after the Parkland shooting. She lost her son to gun violence 6 years ago. For NPR News, I'm Susanna Capelouto in Atlanta.
A Montana senator the President Trump campaigned heavily against has won a third term. Democrat John Tester narrowly beat Republican Matt Rosendale, the state's auditor. Tester told supporters today it's time to heal the divisions in America.
We need to work together in this country. We need to hold people accountable for their actions, and that will be done. And we need to make sure that we move forward in a way that we have the strongest middle class ever.
Trump took a personal interest in trying to defeat Tester, saying he wanted to make him pay at the polls for helping derail a Trump nominee to lead the Department of Veterans Affairs. Wall Street much higher by the closing bell. The Dow up 545, NASDAQ up 194, S&P 500 up 58. This is NPR.
This updated service of Sylvan in-home tutoring. Sylvan's anytime, anywhere tutoring. Southbound on 295, jammed up now from Waterview Avenue down past 895 where there's an accident. Now cleaning up over on the shoulder. On the outer loop, it's jammed up from, with big delays from out of Towson as you're making your way around towards the accident that's just prior to 895. Now with only a shoulder trickling by. Inner loop jammed up as you're making your way from Washington Boulevard heading up through Liberty Road. Then you'll find more delays from Park Heights Avenue around towards Perring Parkway. On the northbound JFX, that's a slow trip from Fayette Street off and on up to Northern Parkway. Back River Neck Road at Middleborough Road. Watch for the accident clearing in Essex, Cockeysville. There's an accident clearing Cranbrook Road near Ridgeland, Bel-Air Road near Glenmore Avenue. Watch for the accident activity. For more info, go to SIGAlert.com. I'm Paula Young with your Baltimore area traffic.
88.9 FM reminds you that the views expressed on WEAA programs are those of participants and not necessarily those of Morgan State University, the staff, management, or underwriters of Baltimore's home for cool jazz. WEAA 88.9 FM.
I do this for my culture. I do this for my culture. I do this for my culture.
All right, peace and welcome back to For the Culture right here on your source for cool jazz and more, WEAA 88.9 FM and WEAA.org. Absolutely the voice of the community. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for checking in and riding with me this evening, folks, for the second part of our show tonight. We're talking about diversity. We're talking about the election. I really believe that this election was significant because we have never seen this amount of number of women. There are nearly 100 women that were elected to, that were brought into elected office yesterday. We never seen this amount of women, this type of diversity within a midterm election season. This cycle, I believe, is a sign that something is essentially happening to our electorate, but more importantly, to our political landscape in this country, folks. I truly, truly believe that. Now, I can't put my finger all on it, so that's why I'm having a conversation with you, because maybe you can help me to fill in the gaps about what is happening in our country when you have, we have a Muslim in the Congress, you have a Latina who's who's the youngest person elected to Congress, when you have an openly gay governor. I mean, you have a Native American that's been brought to the Congress. Something is happening. This level of diversity on this scale, you cannot, and I don't think we should try to disregard the significance of this moment. I don't think we can. I don't think we should, because the significance of this moment, it means that you disregard the change that is essentially happening in this country that is compelled by a level of consciousness that we may not have ever seen before. This type of emergence is challenging the status quo on what we've been taught and what we've been conditioned to believe. I want to go back to the lines, see what folks got to say, but make sure you hit us up, 410-319-8888. Also, we're checking in on my Facebook page at Faraji Muhammad, Farajii Muhammad as well. And also we are streaming live on WEAA.org. Let's go to Dennis in DC. Dennis, thank you so much for checking in. What's your take?
Thanks for accepting my call, young man.
You're welcome.
Yet again, I am so proud to be a part of your conversation here. You do a great job, man.
Thank you,
Whoever
Dennis.
raised you did a fantastic job.
I appreciate that. I'll let them know, definitely.
Please tell them I said that.
Yes, sir.
I'm 65 and I've seen quite a bit. I'm seeing a natural progression of this country and the way they think and act. Yes, you have a gay person in office, you have a Muslim in office, but let's not lose sight on the fact that it's not just a gay or Muslim or black or white. These people who are elected in office best represent the ideas of people who voted to put them in office in the first place.
Right.
So I commend those, and before I lose my thought, I'd like to commend those who took the time out to vote yesterday.
Yes, sir.
You are winners. You didn't sit back and let things just happen. You went out, in some instances, very rainy, very weather kind of inclement. You took the time off when your schedule and voted. You are indeed, truly are the winners of the day. And you're to be commended for that. Continue to vote, continue to speak out. Well, all I'm saying is a natural progression of where this country is headed. You know, I'm not demeaning your enthusiasm or whatever, but it's just a natural progression. I'm looking at what happened some years ago when Richard Nixon was president and was caught up in the Watergate scandal. And when he was caught lying and impeached, this was a change that the people thought would never happen. And because of that, his impeachment, this country was start evolving and letting people know that there are checks and balances in this country that will work.
That's a good point.
So the natural progression, this is a melting pot. You've got Asians, black, white, Indian. You know, when you make a cake, you put a lot of different ingredients into that cake to get the type of cake you want.
Yep.
And this is what we're getting. You put the melting pot of people that make up this country is bound to bring forth fresh ideas, moving in a direction that the country wants to go, and just a natural progression of where this country, I'm not going to say always should go or want to go, but will go nevertheless. And I say this too in closing. We can thank Donald Trump's presidency for a lot of what you're seeing, and we'll continue to see even after he leaves office, because people are starting to wake up and say, okay, if Donald Trump can run for office and win, I can do this.
Yep.
If a woman can, if a gay person can run for office and win, I can do that. I'm looking at all this as being very positive, headed in the right direction, and I want people to be more and more inclined. You know, I want us to act a bit more kindly toward one another, because we all have to live here together.
Yep.
You know, and women are to be commended.
Oh yeah.
For the show of force that I'm so proud of, who yet again stand in the forefront, you know, and behind the scenes too, of trying to get things done.
You're right.
Great job, man.
Hey, Dennis, thank you so much, and I'm so grateful that you were able to check in tonight to share that. I mean, to hear that from a man who's been involved in seeing these cycles. And you're absolutely right. I think that Richard Nixon, President Nixon moment of the impeachment was a big moment for this country, right? Just like when we had the assassinations of president, we can see how serious political revolution can go into the minds and hearts of an individual that you may want to take out one of your own political leaders. The fact of, on the other side, you need to check your political leaders to not color outside of the lines, or to think that they are above the law. And that's what we're seeing, right? I mean, these are fundamental things, folks. And I look, I don't care what country you are part of. At the end of the day, we should all respect authority, as long as that governance from the authority does not conflict with our values and our beliefs, and don't do harm to us. But if they are good authority figures, if they're good government figures, then we should respect it. We should respect the office of the President of the United States. Because in this particular structure, political structure in this country, that's the highest office in the land. So respect is due to that, because anytime you have a leader who is over a sovereign nation, they need to be respected. And America, as much as America has its challenges, as much as it has its ills, at the end of the day, this is an independent, sovereign nation. And that needs to be respected and reflected on. But there is something that's happening, folks. And many of you are saying millennials, the next generation, is at the forefront of this change. I would agree with that. Many of you are saying women are at the forefront of this change. I would certainly agree with that. But I also think the intangible of a level of consciousness that is bearing fruit right now is at the forefront of this change. Let's go to Thomas out of New York. First time caller checking in. Thomas, I know New York is feeling a certain way right now, or is it?
Oh, it's York, not New York.
York. Okay. Yes, sir. York, PA.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Pennsylvania.
Last guy that was just on. I agree with Kevin 100%. We have a cultural change in our society, societal change. The amount of people in our country is open to all ideas today. We got to stay away from that progressive idea because I think it's more on the progressives that will cause revolution. I don't agree we're heading to a revolution, but I think the progressives are going to put us in, could put us into a revolution.
Now, here's the thing, Thomas. When I say revolution, I know that oftentimes the connotation is guns and battle. But I think prior to even getting to that point, we're talking about the exchange or the clashing of ideas, right? We're talking about how an idea that one group of people might be trying to uphold is not in the best interest of the whole. That's what I'm speaking of when I say revolution.
That's what I'm thinking of with the progressive ideas here.
Yeah.
I mean, we have such a wide society here. It's made up of so many different cultures, so many different people. And I think these people are a little more open today than they used to be.
Yeah.
We can't be comparing ourselves to, back in the 40s, 50s, 60s. We're not the same group of people as we were back then.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm almost 60 years old. I've been through a lot. I grew up in South Jersey where, there was all kind of riots. But that's not something we can need to compare to today. It's not the same type of society.
I would totally agree with you there, Thomas. But I think the unfortunate part is, as a 60-year-old man, for you to recognize that change has happened, that we're at a different space, we're at a different group of people, speaks volumes. Because a lot of folks who, once they get older, they kind of set in their ways, right? And oftentimes they just don't want to believe that the world is changing around them, or they're operating as if the world is not changing around them.
Yeah, I disagree with that. I don't think, like I said, I'm almost 60 and I'm well open to change.
I got you. So were you optimistic about what you saw across this country last night?
Yeah, that's why I said I think, our culture has changed. I think people are open to everybody of every culture today. It's not like back, 20 years ago. It's the people aren't the same. The people have open minds today, I think, because there's so much information given to people today. It's not like you're doing this blindfolded. Oh, you don't know what's going on the other side of the country. You do know today. Got you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're absolutely right. Thomas, thank you so much for being one of our new fantastic callers, and I hope to hear more from you, Thomas. But thank you. Let's go to Dwayne out of Baltimore City. Dwayne, what's your take on this, sir? You feel like there might be a revolution of ideas that's taking place considering this election?
Thanks for letting me ride, my brother.
Yes, sir.
I do not think it's a revolution of ideas. I think that, the ideas, especially among Democrats, were just expressed through their vote. Unfortunately, Democratic brothers and sisters, we get a little lackadaisical and we like to lay back because we think everything is smooth. And then we sat there and watched Hillary Clinton take a fall because, typically as Democrats, that's what Democrats do. Okay. So I think that, the guy said it earlier, he stole my fire, is, the things that the revolution that you're talking about has been talked about by demographers, for many, many years now. Okay. Not just a few years. I'm talking decades. They've been saying that, our white brothers and sisters who are, like 60% of the population, as they slowly, they're not having as many babies, and so, their population is dwindling. And so those bodies that help feed this economy have to be replaced, by non-white people. Okay. Now, this is not something for us to celebrate because guess what? You know, as I've said before on your program and on Dr. K's program, you know, power doesn't succeed easy. People don't just give up power easy.
No.
Okay.
No.
And
Good point.
I pray to God that as the things in our country shift more and the power begins to shift more, that it doesn't become one of those armed revolutionary type things. For us to cross over that threshold to get to that promised land of all of us together as one.
Yeah.
Okay. But people don't give up power easily. Okay.
No, I agree. I would totally agree. So, I mean, it's hard for me to believe that it's just about Democrats and Republicans. I'm not seeing just that. I'm seeing something a little bit deeper. You know what I mean, Dwayne?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we have Democrats and Republicans, and of course we have independents. And there is the things that are being expressed through our votes and the people that are making it to office that are across the diverse divide. These people have always been there. We've known they've always been there.
Yeah.
And our counterparts, our white counterparts, or I should say our conservative counterparts, have always known these people are there, but they marginalized them. And they, acted like they weren't important. Well, now it's hard for them to deny it because the numbers are so large. And on top of that, we've broken through a lot of those cultural barriers and barriers, and those mores that kept those people down. And so as we free ourselves more of those people can rise to the top to where they should be.
Yeah.
And so these are just things that have always been there, but they're rising to the surface now. We can't keep them. We can't hide them like some of our grandparents used to do when somebody got pregnant. We send them off to Iowa to have a baby.
Right.
And then they come back magic. Hey, I'm fine. No, that's not going on anymore.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Dwayne, thank you so much for checking in from Baltimore City. Let's go to Donna, downtown Baltimore. Donna, what's your take?
Well, I have to. Can you hear me, Faraz?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I have to piggyback off what the gentleman just said. I'm skeptical because, the way Democrats are, they get comfortable. Now that they got in, what are they going to do? Do they have a strategy? Have they been talking to people with the experience to get them to focus on what the needs of the people are and not, I'm in office and I'm relaxed, now I can sit back. So we got to wait and see. I think they're the new wave. They're the first wave, but there's going to be another talented group of next wave that's going to be coming up. So
and here's the other thing, though, Donna. To be real with you, if the Democrats, quote unquote, that my producer Alex and I were talking about this. Now there's a new term. Well, they say it's a new term called centrist Democrat.
Really?
So now you got all these iterations.
Right.
Of being a Democrat, same side on the same thing on the other side of being Republican. And at this point, I'm not even worried, quote unquote, worried about, what the Democrats are going to do. I think that I think people are awakening to the point that if the Democrats and any of these elected officials decide not to do certain things, we're getting more awake to put some fire on them. Right. Everybody often talks about accountability.
Right. And like you had a woman that called many calls back that said we're tired.
Yeah.
We were tired. The African-American community, especially in Baltimore, were tired back when that 1% voted for Early and said, we're tired. So they swung. This was Baltimore. See, Baltimore is a swing vote city. Everybody keeps putting this aside.
Right.
But you only need 1% of the African-American vote to swing in any direction we decide. We have more power in this city than people realize. And I think African-Americans out there need to understand we only need 1% of the black vote to swing, and we could create havoc in any of these elections if we choose to do it. So we were tied back when Early, got elected because we were sending out a warning, Democrats, you better get yourself together, whomever, independents, whatever. And they didn't listen. They put O'Malley in. He screwed up the state, locked 10,000 blacks. But it was just a big mess. And then once O'Malley came out, I said, guess what? We're going to get a Republican governor. And sure enough, we did. And I also predicted that he was not going to be a first term. He was going to be a second term governor. So we really have to, we're awake, but we're not as awake as we should.
You're right.
I think the most talented people are coming. And they span from 20s all the way up to the early to mid 60s. You're going to have a group that's going to come and set this country on fire, and they're not going to know what to do. My final point is, when we deal with racism right now, they have already had a plan, because when the Europeans, there is called white anxiety. The Root, the online news says, the Root says white anxiety is a big issue among whites. They're scared to death about change. So when their anxiety gets out of control, the question is, will they fight and go down in flames? Because they're going to fight to the end. They don't want change. Those who are in that mindset, they don't want change. But there are whites who are tired themselves, and they want change. They're tired of seeing all this whatever's going on. Yeah. My final point is, I was up in Boston a couple of days ago, up in the city of Boston, and the racism up there. I was in Beacon Hill. I was staying over in a hotel in Beacon Hill, and the racism in Boston was, you didn't hardly see any blacks walking, shopping, or anything. And I kept saying, well, where are the black? No Asians. I didn't see any people of color at all in the city of Boston, in that Beacon Hill area, and just where the State House was. You didn't see black people and people of color. And I said, well, where is it? The racism there. They look at you like you from another country. So I'm asking all black folks and people of color, go up to Boston for a vacation. Go to Whole Foods, which did a big blatant amount of racism against. Followed me, had the security following us around like we were some foreigners or something. Somebody from another planet. But go up there and infiltrate Boston, fill up that place, and make people know, make these white people know that we do exist, and for us not to, for them not to think that we don't exist. To go up to a northern state, in a city, a major city, just looks just like Baltimore, and face blatant racism is a disgrace. And that's all I have to say.
Hey, Donna. Hey, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for checking in. Let's go to Bev out of Northeast Baltimore. Wow, Boston. Bev, what's your take on this? Yes, ma'am.
Hey, Fraudgy, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Bev?
I'm doing good. I love what that woman just said about Boston. My daughter had a real eye-opening experience. She went to school up there.
Okay.
And we're white. She's raised in Baltimore City, went to Baltimore City Public Schools, and she was really taken back by the racism up there. She really was. She thought, oh, Boston, liberal, northern city. But that's a whole nother story.
So
listen, this cultural revolution, okay, this is it's an evolution. It's an evolution. It's been going on. And like, I'm 65, and I heard what the other man said. It's been going on. And this should be happening. Our politics should reflect what the country looks like. But what we really need to focus on, is an economic revolution. Economic revolution. The distribution of wealth in this country is appalling. It's appalling. And until we get leaders that want to address that, we're not going to make any progress in this country.
Hey, Bev, I see it coming.
Too many, you know what I'm saying? Just drive around Baltimore City. These folks in the suburbs, okay, they get on 83. They come on down 83. They go to the harbor. They go to the stadium. They go to Canton. They go to Harbor East.
Look, man.
They get back on 83, and they go back to their little suburbs.
Hey, Bev,
do not see.
I'm with you. And see, here's the thing. I appreciate you, Bev, so much for checking in. The thing is, I feel like it starts with the consciousness, then it starts to build momentum into the political, and then into the economic, and then it's into the educational. This is going to happen on all levels, folks. It's going to happen on all levels. And Bev, you're absolutely correct. The distribution of wealth, okay? Whole nother conversation. But I think that if you have new minds with a different level of consciousness to see how things are being done, how money is being handled in this country, right? And at what expense? At what expense do you have this 1% do you have this top group of folks that are just super rich and everybody else is trying to get by? At what expense? What's the impact? Maybe I'm putting too much on some of these folks that are just got elected, but my point is, for us as the citizenry, if you elected any of these individuals, if you are part of that change that we saw last night, then you already got the seed in your mind that something needs to change, not just politically, socially, economically. We can't discount the power that we have. Like I said it before, and I'll keep saying it to the day that this show goes off. People power trumps political power. Because guess what? We are the politics. Just like we're the culture, we are the politics. Look, I got to take a quick break. When we come back, Paul from Northeast Baltimore, Fred, Gene, Terrence, and I. And I got your comments from Facebook. Stay riding with me. We're going to continue to have some great conversation for the final 30 of For the Culture right here on your source for cool jazz and more. Absolutely the voice of the community on Morgan State University, WEAA 88.9 FM. We'll be right back.
What's up? It's Mark Clark from Mornings with Mikkel, and I just want to say thank you so much for all those contributions you made for our fund drive. This fall fund drive was so successful because of YOU. I can't say enough about your continued support as we try to do something special here at WEAA, and of course, it can't be possible without you. So again, thank you so much for your contributions for this fall fund drive, and we look forward to entertaining you every morning on Mornings with Mikkel and all day long on WEAA.
Every day, there are musically gifted young people who aspire to be in the spotlight. They dream to be just as successful as the artists who inspired them to create their very own music. Join Robert Shaheed in Masterclass as he highlights such gifted individuals that absolutely need to be heard. Monday through Friday at noon, only on WEAA 88.9 FM, the voice of the community.
News headlines, events, podcasts, and more. WEAA.org.
Culture. I do this for my culture. I do this for my culture.
Peace and welcome back to For the Culture right here on your source for cool jazz and more. WEAA 88.9 FM and WEAA.org. Absolutely the voice of the community. We're continuing the conversation talking about this change, this awakening, this election. That's right. The election, midterm election that happened last night. Do you feel like there was a change that took place? Do you feel like there is an emergence of new consciousness? You feel like the energy has shifted or that there is an awakening of minds? Irene checked in on our Facebook page and said, well, we did not get everything we wanted, but we got people engaged. We must stay involved in the election process. Seeing large numbers of people brave all manner of foul weather, acts of sabotage and discomfort to cast their vote made all the stress and anxiety worth it. Democracy is still alive, even though it is on life support. Wow, powerful statement, Irene. The paradigm has shifted, and I am proud of the American people on this turnout. Democracy is still alive, even though it is on life support. We need to pray over democracy right now. I think we need to hold hands and ask for a blood transfusion. You know what blood transfusion is for democracy? An economic system, educational system. We need to transfuse and we need to translate that, and we need to bring some new life into this democracy. But Irene, I think that's an excellent statement. Deep analysis. Dwayne checked in and says centrist Democrat is a blue dog Democrat. Blue dog Democrat. Okay. And Dwayne also said, according to the 2010 census, the racial ethnic makeup of Boston was as follows. Whites are 53.9%, non-Hispanic 47%, Black or African American, 24.4%, Hispanic or Latino of any race, 17.5% as of June 3rd, 2018. Yeah, it's still a very segregated city, very segregated. Dwayne also mentioned that, hey, they are afraid to live in the city. Crime is horrible. The schools are not on the level of the county. I have neighbors all around me moving to the county with their children. Yep, you're absolutely right. Let's go back to the phone line, see what folks got to say. 410-319-8888. We got Paul, who's been waiting patiently from Northeast Baltimore. Paul, thank you for your great patience. What's your take on this? Is there new energy that's coming to fruition right now, Paul?
How you doing, Faraj?
I'm good, Paul. How are you, man?
Well, I like the fact that people are engaged, like the lady said. People are engaged. Right now we need our leaders. I said, without leaders still there, the older ones that are in charge. The new people hopefully come together and find something together to work with, because in numbers they had an opportunity to change some things down there to start, because they'll be in their first assembly or first meetings coming up. And then we hope that the Nick Mosby's and people like that speak their minds up too, because we invested a lot in them and they invested a lot in themselves going to school and things of that nature. I hope that they're prepared for what they're about to get into also, because if you ask for it and you got it, God actually gave you an opportunity.
Yeah.
And like you said, no, they need to be ready. There's no ifs, ands, about it. You ask for it, we put you there, we believe in you, and you something like the brothers do, be erratic about changing things, whether it be the Latino, whether it be the Hispanic, whether it be the young Black lady up in New York and things like that, who's going to be sitting in a chamber with 99. She's going to be 99. She's going to be outnumbered 99-1, and she's going to have to get her point across, but she's going to have to blend in with some of the other people and stuff like that, and get their point across.
You're right.
I was hoping that like Elijah Cummings, a Ben Cardin, or one of them start taking Nick Mosby or one of them underneath their wing and start showing them the ropes and things of that nature, and start grooming them and things like that. Not only that, these individuals that just got in there need to learn the law. They need to start working on stuff. It's not over with. It just started.
Oh,
they need to get into books and things of that nature. So the change is nothing if you're not going to put the work in, Faraji.
You're right.
And we already know that Culture put their work in. Dr. K put their work in. WEA put their work in. And then let's not forget about, let's not forget that you for all people like Obama was. It doesn't make a difference what color you are. It's what's right.
Yeah.
And things like that.
That's
Education, Social Security, health care, all those things, housing, economics, all of those things are what we looking at. So those Nick Mosby's, Antonio Hayes, I can't think of all of them, but they know who they are. The fact that Elijah Cummings would come, the man with the money and things like that, and we all got to get back together as Democrats, Republicans, and whatever, to do what God put us here to do.
You're right.
Thanks, Roger.
Hey, Paul, thank you so much. You're absolutely right. Very sobering message among a very divisive political climate that we're in. But you're absolutely right. I mean, I think at the end of the day, if we don't put our egos aside and just go ahead and do what's right for the interests of the people, then we're going to continue to go down the same path that we've been going down, especially here in the city of Baltimore and around the state for the past 50 years. I'm not trying to repeat that history. I want us to move forward. I wish there were more progressive thinking political leaders in the city. I really do. I voted last night. I did vote. But it was like, come on now, let's vote, but give me a good reason. Like, seriously, like, give me a really good reason as to why I need to vote. And I'm saying that rhetorically, folks. I mean, I went out there, I cast my ballot. My wife and I cast our ballots. But at the end of the day, I'm expecting some change. Just like businesses expect a return on their investment, I'm expecting a return on my investment. So you want me to vote for you. You want us to believe in you, right? And I do want to believe. And for most of us, the fact that we are disappointed is because we had certain expectations that weren't met. And I think that we are all in that space, right? We continually strive to believe. And I'm saying, regardless of you black or white, Asian, Latino, that if you listen to what we had to say, to what you said, and what your neighbors and other citizens have said over these past couple of weeks leading up to yesterday's election, we want to believe so bad that this thing really works in our interest and for our betterment. We really want to believe this. And for those who say they don't vote because they were disappointed, they believed, but something disappointed them. Somebody disappointed them. Something or somebody didn't meet their expectations. But we really want to believe in this thing. So for all of those political leaders, whether you just got into office or you've been in office, stop taking that for granted. That we believe in you, that it's an automatic mandate. No, belief can sometimes diminish when you don't have faith. When you don't have works that back it up. You know, they say faith without action is dead. That's what happens. We have this faith in you, but then you don't bring no action, and then you wonder why we dead when you come around. All right, let's go back to the lines. 410-319-8888. Let's go to Fred, Northeast Baltimore. Fred, talk to me.
Hey, how you doing, Roger?
I'm good, Fred. How are you?
I don't know, man. I'm kind of, sometimes I get confused by some of the conversations we have about how to deal with this new environment. You said, is that correct?
Yeah, it's something happening here, Fred.
Well, Roger, as far as black people are concerned, something always happening. It's been happening. It was happening back in '64.
Yeah.
Happened back in '64. 70, right on up to the day, man, it's been happening. I mean, so many things are on the table. I mean, I hear a young man sometime go over the air, he mentions eugenics. And it goes right past people. You know what eugenics is, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I mean, that's a real situation that they put in place to eliminate certain people.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what we think. That's documented.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So when we look at this scenario that we ended up against, it's like we send our people to Annapolis. Like right now, we got some new senators, and I wish them well. But I read their resumes, right? They don't belong to the NAACP. They don't belong to the Urban League. They don't belong to none of that.
Mm.
How you go to Annapolis and don't take your history with you?
Mm.
You think them boys down there are playing? They play for real.
Mm.
And they play. I mean, look what they did with this election just came off of Elijah. Think about this, Casper. Here is the boy out of PG County, Baker.
Yeah.
Okay, and he had the best resume in the race. He put the Democratic Party on notice. If he couldn't have beat Hogan, it's a proven fact then that the Democratic Party is very racist.
Mm.
That's why they made sure he didn't get that spot. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
I mean, Ben Johnson got 23 counties, I think, in the primary, something like that.
Yeah.
How many get in the general?
He got 3.
Hello. He got PG.
He got PG, Montgomery, and Baltimore City.
Which everybody knows that if you just win those 3 counties, that doesn't guarantee you to be the governor of Maryland.
No, not at all.
So for him to put himself in the race, he put the black community at a disadvantage. Because quite naturally, we know the boys up in Frederick County, Carroll County, they're not going to vote for the ex-president of the NAACP. Let's be for real. Think about where you really are. Maryland embraced slavery, even though she fought on the side of the Union. So we talk about blue dogs and red dogs. They were invented right here in Maryland. See, we don't, black people don't know. We had a chance to put the United States Senator in place with Michael Steele. Because of the black people's one-sidedness about the way we think. We don't understand that they have people at both tables in order to really debate this scenario. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel you.
At both tables.
Yeah.
If you ain't in the room, like you say, I heard you say many times, if you ain't at the table, you on a menu.
You on a menu.
So we get, jerked around from here. We get caught up in all the brown people and the black people need to get together. Trust me, man, that nobody else is thinking like that but us. Look at how everybody else is set up. Look at how they come to Baltimore. People coming to Baltimore out from other countries. They set up all kinds of scenarios for them. Teachers to teach them English. Teachers to, black kids can barely speak Ebonics. But they just figure out how to do. When they woke up one day and realized, think about this, guys. They woke up one day and said, damn, the capital of the United States is predominantly black. How does that look around the world? Damn, the biggest major city next to the capital is majority black. We have to do something about this.
Yeah.
And trust me, they started back in the 60s when they took civil rights, when they passed the civil rights bill. They said, what's going to happen when these guys go out and go up against our kids for the jobs now that we all have rights? What are we going to do?
Yeah.
We started the war in Vietnam.
Hey, Fred, I got to let you go. But hey, Fred, you bring up some valid points, man. Valid points. I appreciate you, as always, for checking in. Terrence from East Baltimore. Terrence, talk to me, man. I know you got something to say.
What's going on, Fred?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
I'm good. I just wanted to say, I think the shift that you're feeling or, you're expressing is the diminishing of the fear of old white men and the old way of doing things.
Oh, I know. Mm-hmm.
And I do believe that is the reason that we've seen candidates, or to say, people in office challenged in places that weren't challenges before.
Yeah.
And they're being challenged in a way they haven't been challenged before. Last night, I was reading a stat that the incumbents that lost last night outraised the people that replaced them by something like 6 or 7 to 1.
Wow.
In terms of dollars.
Wow.
Right. So to me, that's saying that slowly but surely, money is coming out of the political mindset of people.
Mm.
And I think that people are connecting or searching for candidates to connect with, like the young lady in New York. Her name escapes me.
Alexandra.
Alexandra, yeah. Everybody talks about how she was at all these community meetings, like all of them. And that's what really put her over the hump versus, spending her way into a seat, which has become the norm in politics in America for probably the last, 30, 40 years.
Oh, man, much longer than that, Terrence. Money runs the politics in America.
Right. But so it was basically the seat went to the highest bidder.
Yeah.
And I think that shift is happening, and it's happened rapidly because people are finally realizing they can't relate to someone who can go out and raise $100 million. But you can relate to that person sitting next to you in that city council meeting.
There it is. That's why, and you know what? I'm so glad that you raised that statistic up, Terrence, because it goes back to what we always say: people power trump political power.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, as much as we talk about money, and money is a huge factor. I mean, there's a lot of conversation about campaign finance reform in both the national and even on some statewide elections. And even in Baltimore, the amount of money that it costs to be the next mayor or to be the next council person, there's a lot of money that's at stake, right? But at the end of the day, that money cannot replace building those relationships to get people to come out to the polls and to believe that your form of governance is going to be the best way for people to get their interests heard loud and clear.
Absolutely. And if you, I'm not sure if you caught it today, if you saw Trump's press conference, or whatever you want to call it today, that man is scared.
Well, yeah, and he is scared. I mean, outside of the obvious reasons, right? You know, the House is now under Democratic control. Maxine Waters is over the Finance Committee, and so many other things. But I think that he has to, you know, redefine what his strategy is going to be at this point, right? Because he's even trying to change the narrative and saying that there was a victory. Like, yeah, you know, we did win as a Republican. He's saying that, trying to put a slant on that story.
Moral victory when the final score says something different.
Come on, man.
Is basically what he's trying to do. And the last thing I want to bring up, and this is kind of thinking forward, man. I'm looking at all these women winning in places where women weren't even considered. I got to be looking at Kamala Harris in 2020, man.
Oh, for presidency.
You got to be. Look, we got women in places being elected. They weren't even basically allowed to run.
Hey, check this out. I'm not going to doubt you on this one, Terrence. I'm not going to doubt you on this one. Here's the thing, though. She needs to start now.
Oh, she's starting. I believe she's starting.
She needs to start now. Like, she needs to go Obama style. Like, 2 years plus to campaign. I'm serious. I mean, you got to raise a lot of money, but more importantly, you got to really put your story out there. And that's going to be powerful if she decides to make a run for that. That would be powerful. Terrence, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for checking in. Let's go to Gene, then Ak, then we'll finally end it out with Dr. Dunston. Gene, talk to me. Gene from Pikesville.
Hey, Faraji, how you doing, man?
I'm good.
Fred was talking about eugenics. That'd be me, who brings up eugenics all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm breaking my arm, pat myself on the back, because anytime you get a compliment from Fred, it's man, it's like
like you got an award.
Yeah, you got an award. You know what I mean? Or if you say something that is meaningful and is relevant, you know,
absolutely.
And that's where I'm coming from. So, and I'm giving you the compliment because you were talking about altruism. And you know, and the sheep, the sheep, and the proverbial sheep in wolves' clothing.
Yeah,
where people use, oh, we know what's good for you, we know what's best for you, and it's for your best. It's our best intentions that you do this because it's going to be the greatest thing that you've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's the altruism. You know,
I love it. I love it. I like that term, Gene.
You know, it's good for you, but it ain't gonna do you no good.
Right.
It's gonna do them some good. Right.
Right. I like that.
Altruism.
Altruism.
So, and that's part of eugenics too. This eugenics thing is deep, and I hope people, you know, Google it or whatever and look it up. But the lady called in about Boston, I said, oh my God! Remember, was it Look magazine or Life magazine when they ran the picture with the brother getting stabbed by the flag?
Yeah.
Remember that one?
Yes, sir.
You can't forget that picture.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Get
sir.
that out. That's
good
a nightmare.
Good
but
point.
That's Boston. But remember, busing worked in the South. Doing, you know, it worked because 10% of the people who were bused in the South, they let them bust them. But then this is what they did. The segregationists said, okay, let's try it in the North, see how you like it, and that's when Boston turned out.
Absolutely.
They went to Rock Glen, and they did busing in Rock Glen, and you saw white people go crazy over there, right here in Baltimore, right off of Beachfield Avenue. And Old Frederick Road. But you know, I just want to call in and say they you know, it's an earthquake, man. What's going on? Yeah, it's an earthquake, and it might be 4.9 on the Richter scale, but it is a earthquake. The level of consciousness is being raised, and I'm optimistic.
There it is, my man Gene from Pikesville. Earthquake. That's what I'm talking about. Hey, Gene, thank you so much. Mount Vernon, talk to me. Thank you for your patience. Hey, Ak.
Yeah, how you doing?
I'm good, Ak. How are you?
I'm oppressed but blessed. Listen, you've been using the word revolution awfully lot. You wouldn't be using that word if you knew what it really meant. Revolution and freedom is something you take with your hand. Let's boycott Christmas and see what happens. Have a good one, brother.
Hey, have a good one, Ak. I hear that. Dr. Dunston, Northeast Baltimore. Final word. What's your take on this, Doc?
Yeah, I got to put my 2 cents in.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, look, I want to say that all of us play a part in this system. And my piece is trying to wake our people up to get away from drugs and alcohol and this technology. All of us play a part. We got worldviews from everybody. Everybody expressed their opinion, which was wonderful, because we need to hear all sides. But I'm saying to the people out there is that the technology is another form that seduces our young people's minds and is keeping them dead on the inside. You sit around a table, you go in the office, everybody's head is down. Nobody do any exchanging of conversation anymore. Now, if we can't talk to one another, how am I going to feel your pain? How am I going to feel your joy? Where do we come into play to help one another? People are not talking. We got to help one another to talk. I'm out there on the front line with our people with the drugs and the alcohol. I want them to get away from that so they can wake up. We got to wake our people up. And like the guy said yesterday, education, we have to educate our people. The Baltimore City school system is broken. It is broken, and our children are not learning. How are they going to learn who to vote for, how to vote? What's the purpose in life? Our young people are struggling. And guess what? They are people of the future. And we got people in school in the 12th grade, 11th grade, don't even know how to tie their shoes, brother.
Yes, ma'am.
You hear what I'm saying? My son is an educator, and the stories he come home and talk to me about our children in the Baltimore City school system, it breaks my heart. Do you hear what I'm saying?
I do.
We are on the front line fighting because all of us play a part. Everybody, those who have a higher level of consciousness, got to figure out, what part do you play? I'm in the main line of drug. I am anti-technology. I learned enough to do enough to get by in this system. You know, but let's teach our people about what it is to exchange and have conversations, so we could talk about why you should vote for this person and why you should not vote for this person.
Absolutely.
Now, I want to know if anybody caught this from our mayor, our governor last night. He said that with this city of blue, the river of blue, this deep blue city, and I still won, and I had a purple surf. Did y'all catch what he was saying? Did y'all catch what he was saying?
He had a collective of the red and the blue.
Yes, but he kept saying a deep blue city.
Yeah.
A deep blue, in the deep blue.
Yeah.
Right, but he kept emphasizing. Yesterday, Hogan kept emphasizing the deep blue, and I still won.
Yep.
Did you catch that, what he was saying?
Mm-hmm.
So you got to listen to these politicians as to what they're not saying.
Yep, you're right. You are absolutely right, Doc.
We got to listen to what they, because when he kept saying, he emphasized that thing.
Yeah.
This deep blue city.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Dr. Dunston, I got to let you go, but I truly appreciate you for checking in and certainly having a final word tonight. I mean, you are right there. You are right there. This is such an important moment right now, which is why I say that we need to do our part to at least reflect on what is happening right now. We need to do our part to reflect on this. I want you to reflect on something that Angela Davis said in one of her interviews. She said, progressive struggles, whether they are focused on racism, repression, poverty, or other issues are doomed to fail if they do not also attempt to develop a consciousness of the insidious promotion of capitalist individualism. The insidious promotion of capitalist individualism. We are at this point, folks, that when we talk about progressives, when we're talking about forward motion, when we're talking about creating a future for this country, that in order for this country to truly get to a better space, that the consciousness has to get out of seeing itself as being the only consciousness. The mind, excuse me, has to get out of itself, has to get out of that space and saying, well, I am the only one. I am the best as the individual. Because that insidious promotion of capitalist individualism will always keep us in a place of being divided. And more importantly, to not see that we are a part of a larger tapestry, that what affects you affects me. What impacts you impacts me. So if we continue to go into this space, right, where we do not have very hard, but very necessary and honest and real conversations, then we're going to continue to find ourselves